Teen Wolf the Argent Chapter 1 Death Max was an average teenager who came out for shopping one day after he finished watching his anime and TV series. As soon as he was out of the shop he saw a little girl crossing the road carelessly while a truck was moving at breathtaking speed. As soon as Max saw that he ran across to push the girl across, and he succeeded in pushing her out of the way, but he forgot he was in the way of the truck. Before he came to realization he was hit by the truck. But to his luck as he was in the soul form he was able to see that the little girl was crying by his cold lifeless body. "Big brother, I'm so sorry. It was all my fault. It was my fault. Please get up, big brother." The medic came as soon as possible and checked the condition. He said, "Kid, I'm sorry to say this, but it's too late. I heard what happened. He was a good fella. But not everyone is lucky enough to survive this. The girl, but he. It's because of me. The medic, it's his choice, kid. Try not to blame yourself. Alright, guys, let's move it here." As Max was watching this he knew that it's all over for him. Later on was still able to watch his undamaged heart was transplanted to a humanitarian. And he was happy about that. He said to himself, "Well, looks like that's it, huh? Yeah, brat, that's it. Chapter 2 Meeting. Yeah, brat, that's it." Suddenly a voice out of nowhere heard in Max's ear. As he turns to see who it is, he only saw an old man standing by his side. "Max, excuse me." "Old man, you understand what happened now, don't you?" "Max, yeah, man. So where am I going, heaven or hell?" "Old man, let's walk and talk, okay? Okay boy, you seem a bit brighter than the rest. So I'll ask you 3 questions. You answer me that truthfully. Then we'll see what to do with you." "Max, okay, but who are you?" "Old man, me, well, you can say that I'm one of the copies of the entity born out of faith. Or in your words a projection of a god. Okay, we don't have much time. Let's get to it. First question, why did you save that girl?" "Max, to be honest, I don't know. It would be lying if I say that I was doing this to be a hero. Let's just say that no one deserved to die that young. Or that my life was boring enough that I wanted an adventure, to do something not normal for once. But I didn't expect to die, old man. Can you believe it? Me dying as soon as I try to do something for the first time. Damn, I've known that life is precious, but damn, here I am, dead, waiting for my judgment. Ah, such a sad day." The old man was getting annoyed by his banter. "Okay, this is kinda weird. You better answer the question honestly, brat. Don't waste my time." "Max, okay, but can you not call me a brat? I mean I am around 18. You know." Old man frowning. "You little brat, I'm thousands of years old. Be grateful that I'm talking to you instead of dragging you out of here. Just answer the questions, okay?" "Max, I mean, I can't believe this. I saved a little girl and all. But I still get treated like this. I wanna talk to your superiors, old foggy. This ain't right." "Old man, that's it, brat. One more extra word and you're out." "Max, okay. Sheesh, what a pain you are. Get it over with. At least after this I won't have to see you, old foggy." "Old man, you remember this, brat. I'll make sure you get the short end of the stick at the end of the day. So my second question, would you make the same choice again if given the change? Now answer honestly, brat. I'll know what you're thinking right away. So don't try lying." "Max, well, actually, if I had another chance, I'll just pull away the girl when I'm running. I ain't gonna stop. I mean, can you believe that I just pushed her off and stood there? I should have moved else I wouldn't be stuck here talking to you." "Old man, well, this is still acceptable. Okay, now for my last question. Tell me the reason why you want to live." "Max, who would want to die? Well, I could say that my life was boring, but I could have made something better of it in the future. Who knows, I could have become the president of a nation. But no, I had to die this early and end everything." "Old man, well, kid, even though you're kinda shameless, but you got heart, kid. So I'll give you 3 wishes in a world of your choosing for your rebirth. But there is always a limitation, so you won't remember anything in your next life. So be wise, don't be excessive." "Max, he. Okay. Now this is awesome. Okay, I wanna be reborn in Teen Wolf world and my first wish is I want to say embody." "Old man, I did say not to be excessive, didn't I? I can't give you this wish. This will be breaking the natural order of life. Your selected world is Teen Wolf. Now you can't change that. I already told you be wise. Once you said something which is probable, it will be registered. So be careful while choosing the words. The old man was already sweating. He couldn't imagine the consequences if he does something like that. He's already regretting coming here today. Max now wised up. He started to think carefully for his wish. Max, okay, my first wish is I want the ability to manipulate internal energy as in ki or chakra. Old man started to ponder about something and said, okay, I can grant you this wish, but you better train in it. Before you train you will be like any normal mortal, only after training for a long period of time will you slowly awaken your energy. Remember, nothing is free in this world. You have to earn it. So if you train some martial arts like Tai Chi you might be able to sense your ki and strengthen yourself. Now for your next wish. Max was instantly happy. He already started scheming in his mind. And he has a smile comparable to a devil. As soon as the old man saw that smile he knew he fucked up somewhere. Instantly Max said, I want all the memories and methods of training of Goku from Dragon Ball series from first to last, oh and Naruto's training memories too. The old man instantly regretted it. He knew this was going to be a bad deal. But it's not today unacceptable to the natural law. It was just training memories. He couldn't find a way to reject it. So he dejectedly agreed, okay, kid, know that this isn't gonna do you any good. So let's get this over with. What's the last one? Max this time he didn't even think much while answering. For my third wish, I want all my memories intact. I don't want to forget anything after rebirth. As soon as the words came out the old man's world and stall collapsed. He couldn't believe it. He tried to think of a way around this wish, but he couldn't come up with anything. So finally he made a decision and told the kid. See, boy, it's not that it's impossible to give you this wish, it's kinda loophole in natural order that you're getting these wishes. But I can't in good conscience allow this. So how about this, I'll awaken your memories a month before the plot starts. That way you'll have a normal childhood and enjoy these extra benefits when the time comes. How about it? Max knew something was up, so he decided to push further. Okay, but I want to born as Allison's twin big brother. That's all I want. Come on, you're an all-powerful god. It's not impossible, right? Max put on his puppy face while saying this. The old man, well. Chapter 3 Reasons and Memories. Old man, well, I was planning to put you in as Scott. But if you want it this way, then I don't mind. Max was thinking of how to milk the old man for more. After a few seconds he decided not to push his luck. So he tried to put on good face. I know, you're in a tough spot, old man. Let's just say that I'm a good and honest kid. Old man wanted to spit on his face for saying that. But he decided to keep his nobile facade. Boy, you're in your soul state so I can easily know what you're thinking. So don't try to put on a good face. If it wasn't for others' reasons I wouldn't even be talking with you. Max suddenly remembered something. Old man, you said nothing is free in this world, so would you mind telling me why I'm getting these benefits? I mean, it's not like I'm some paragon saint. So let's cut to chase. I wanna know why. Old man started to frown as he heard this. It wasn't that he couldn't tell him, but it's just he didn't want to admit that it was his responsibility for the events of today. So he came in person to check on the results. But who could have expected that this would happen? So the old man decided to give a simple clue for him. Kid, let's just say that the truck driver today was supposed to die a peaceful death in his home. But someone tried to change his fate and that little girl was the one who took his place. Then out of nowhere you came and took her place. That's why you stood still in that spot. Where there is death, there will always be death. You can't change that here. But in the next world natural law is a bit amiable, so this was your compensation. Think of it as an apology by someone. Max was thinking again. He didn't expect to be pulled into a struggle better fates. Then he finally sighed. Well, everything is over. We can't live in the past, can we? Well, I'll just enjoy my new life then. It's not like I was doing anything better here. The old man laughed. That's the spirit, kid. Okay, let me tell you, I'm putting in a little something extra in your new body, so you won't be in a disadvantage. But I still don't get why you didn't choose to become the strongest alpha or something. Max for this, he smiled and said, to become an alpha werewolf is not that hard there, all I need is to get bit and turn, so why would I wanna waste my wish with that? But with these wishes the possibilities are unimaginable, right? The old man for the first time smiled hearing this. The old man kinda liked this kid as much as he hated him. Well, boy, I'm telling you early on, the world is not limited to Beacon Hills. Travel around, you might find some interesting stuff. Max was pondering what the old man was trying to say, but he decided he'll check on it later. Old man, I know this ain't what you wanted to do, but still thanks for the opportunity. Old man sighed and said, good luck, Max. Our time is up. Live well, I don't think you'll get this chance again. Try not to get killed early on. Max knew that the old man was a good fella, so he said, you too, God. What am I even saying? You're God, you're already having the time of your life. Hopefully I don't see you soon. Old man's mouth twitched hearing this. Brat, hope your luck you're good next time that you don't meet me. If I see you again I'll just throw your soul in reincarnation cycle and forget about you. Goodbye for now. Max laughing at the old man. See ya, old foggy. The old man ripped the dimension barrier and threw his soul. Humph. Such a cocky kid. Why do I always get these weird ones? I gotta make sure those new gods don't mess around anymore. I'm having a headache because of this. The old man vanished as he was mumbling something. Teen Wolf World 16 years later. Chris Argent was training his son some exercises. He knew that his son was special as he got stronger the more he pushed. So today they both were out on a morning run. Chris said, Max, you got the message. Max said, yeah, she's coming back in a month, right? Chris, yeah, you and her are twins but the difference between you two is a bit too much, kiddo. Max, come on dad, it's not like we're screaming all of a sudden Max falls down clutching his head. He was feeling like his head was about to explode by the sudden surge of memories. He didn't know what to do but scream. Chris Argent tries to hold him up saying, Max, Max. Can you hear me, son? Max, what's happening? Chris immediately calls the ambulance. By the time the ambulance got here, Max was passed out. Chris and him were on the side of the road. The medics pick him up and rushes to the hospital. Chapter 4 Mediation and Training. Later that evening Max wakes up in the hospital bed checking his surroundings only to find Melissa standing there checking his pulse. He suddenly remembers his past life, the conversation with God, his wishes and the training memories of Goku and Naruto and also the memories of how he lived his life here with his parents and sister. He suddenly widens his eyes ecstatically. He remembers now. He knows what to do. He was too happy that he failed to notice that Melissa was watching him weirdly. He calms down after a few seconds. Melissa suddenly said, well, someone's pretty happy today. Max then says, I kinda am, ma'am. My sister and mom are coming back after a long time. So I was kinda excited. He couldn't say that he was excited to receive his memories. So he improvised. Melissa smiled at that and said, well, you get some rest, kid. I'll call your dad. Max, okay, miss. Melissa walks out to call Chris. As Max was looking through his training program, he was happy that he chose to be born as Argent. He was getting trained since he was 6. Now he was able to remember the meditation technique for ki and chakra. He closed his eyes and laid back. From outside he was like any other 16-year-old kid with a good athletic build body, but inside his ki and chakra were generating slowly. He could feel it, his body was getting stronger with nourishment of chakra. And he could feel the ki around him. He could feel his father and Melissa were coming to his door. So he stopped and opened his eyes. He was pretty happy that he was able to sense the energies of everyone nearby. And he knew that if he got stronger he'll be able to sense everyone in that town. Soon Chris and Melissa came in. Chris had a stiff face, but Max can feel it that he was worried. Chris said, how you feeling, son? Max happily said, come on dad, I'm way better. Let's just go home. I mean look at me, aren't I looking good? Chris was taken aback by his reply. The way Max was screaming in the morning he thought that something serious had happened. He slowly calmed down saying, just to be sure, stay for the night. One more day here won't harm you. Max was happy that he cared about him, but he still insisted and they argued for a while till Melissa decided to butt in. Melissa, well, according to the report, he suffered a mild headache in morning. And probably because of the excitement for his mom and sister's return his brain might have overloaded. I don't think it's a big issue, Mr. Argent. You can take him home in a few hours. Chris decided to give up. Okay, but only if he's all right. Melissa was quite envious about their father and son relationship as her husband left her. She was quite happy for these two guys. So she said, I assure you, Mr. Argent, he's fine. He'll be back to running by tomorrow morning. Chris sighed. Thanks, Melissa. After couple hours Max was meditating in his bed trying to adjust himself. He then heard Melissa walking in. So he opens his eyes waiting to go home. Melissa comes in saying, Mr. Max Argent, you can leave now. I think we're about done with you. Max said, you can call me Max, Ms. Melissa. Melissa, okay Max, your father is waiting at the reception. You can join him now. Max gets up and walks out the door. As he was moving towards the reception he sensed strong negative emotion directed at him. He turned to his right and inside a room he saw a man sitting in a wheelchair with a burned face. He knew who that was. It was none other than Peter Hale. Max knew why he was emitting such hostile ki. He decided to pay him a visit before heading out. He made his way to Peter's side and dragged a chair and sat down facing him. Max said, Hey there Peter. Peter didn't reply. He was just like any other man who lost his five senses. But Max knew he was acting so well that nobody suspects him. So Max decided to give him a little warning beforehand. Peter, I know your house was burned down by my Aunt Kate. But I'll tell you a secret, but you better keep your distance from my family. I don't care what you do with the rest of them, but the minute you make a move directed to my people, I'll make sure that you regret it. I'll make sure that burning down your house was child's play compared to what I'll do if you bare your fangs towards me. Peter was still silent. If it was anyone else they would have thought that Peter was really a harmless patient. But Max knew better, so Max decided to end the conversion soon. Kate was acting on the orders of my grandfather Gerard. If you want you go after both of them go, and skip town. But you better stay away from the four of us. Max walked out of the room, but Peter was still in the same position. But in the inside he was getting angrier and angrier by the second. He couldn't believe it that a 16-year-old child came to him and threatened him. He decided to make sure to pay him a visit in the future to let him know the consequences of threatening him. Max slowly made it to the reception. Chris was still there waiting for him. Max reached there and they went out. Next day morning Max woke up earlier than usual. He put on his jogging outfit and started running towards the woods. Max knew he had to keep his new training a secret. If anyone finds out about it then he won't be able to answer them. After running for about half an hour he come to the dense forest. He decided to start his training here. He also knew that there is a limit in the natural law of this world where he can't do everything like in the animes. So he decided to start slowly. After warming up a bit he stood in front of a tall tree. He knew that his training was going to be nothing but easy, but nothing in life is easy at first. He concentrated in his mind and started running towards the tree and took 3 steps on the tree before falling back to the ground. He knew this was the first of many falls. He continued on climbing again and falling over and over again. After 2 hours he was able to climb 7 steps on the tree. He knew that he was making great progress. But that wasn't enough for him. He decided to enhance his body with ki. At first he felt a bit weird feeling his body light, but soon he got adjusted. And in half an hour he was about to do 20 steps on the tree. Now he knew that if he wants to improve he has to combine ki and chakra together to form a new energy to nourish himself. After the initial success he decided to train his martial arts. He didn't have a punching bag so he decided to go for the next best thing. He used the trees next to him. He punched and kicked around. While practicing he noticed one thing, he didn't get tired much and didn't have much injuries. All the scratches he had were healed when he nourishes himself with energy. By the time he reached home it was already noon. Chris was waiting for him with an angry look. As soon as Chris saw Max he said, "Where do you think you were, young man?" Max in his mind, "Oh, shit. I forgot to tell him," but still kept a smiling face and said, "Haha, Dad, the thing is, I went for a run in the forest and I slipped." Haha. Chris saw Max's dirty rundown clothes and said, "Next time let me know before you go, or leave a letter on the fridge." I won't have to worry about you then. Max apologized and went to his room for rest. He sat down and started meditating. He could feel the energies in his body rising. He knew currently he was twice as strong as a beta werewolf. But it still wasn't enough. This strength was only due to his father training him since he was a kid and with the overnight nourishment of energies. He meditated for half an hour, and took a shower afterwards. Later he decided to have food and made sure to remind himself to take something to eat in morning while going to training. He kept up his training for the next 4 weeks. By the end of the 4th week he was able to climb and stand on walls upside down and was as strong as an alpha. And he also discovered that after nourishing himself for weeks he instinctively got self-healing. Even though it was not comparable to Wolverine, but any minor injury he had would be healed within minutes. Now he just waited for his sister and mother to return. Chapter 5 plot starts on a deep eerie night. Scott was resting in his home when he seems to have heard a sound, so he instinctively took a baseball bat and snooped around. As he came out of the house, suddenly a boy hangs down from the ceiling outside. Scott was about to hit him, when that boy suddenly shouts, "Scott, it's me." Scott immediately stops and looks at him clearly. "Styles, what the hell were you doing out here hanging?" Styles says, "Haven't you ever heard the expression, hanging out at friend's house?" "Well, that doesn't matter. I got news, man. I heard on the police radio that they found a girl's body on the woods. So you and me, we're going to look for it." Scott looked confused and asked, "Well, if they found the body, what are we looking for?" Styles suddenly smiles and said, "That's the thing, man. They only found half the body. Come on, we're going on a hunt." Scott weirdly looks at him saying, "Hunt? Don't you mean dead body hunt?" Styles ignores this question. "It doesn't matter, man. Come on, the cops will be all over the place. We better move fast." Scott just says, "Whatever." In the forest, Scott and Styles were snooping around looking for the half of the girl's dead body. But they soon hear police radio chatter. They quickly hide behind trees, but before they could hide, the cops spotted Styles. The deputy says, "Get your hands behind your back and walk out slowly." Styles and Scott argue for a few seconds before Styles comes out slowly saying, "It's me. Mr. Stilinski." Looks at him and says, "Styles, this one's mine, guys." He moves closer to Styles saying, "What the hell were you doing here? And where is your partner in crime?" Styles acts like he didn't know anything. "Partner who?" "Mr. Stilinski." Looks at him for a second and says, "I know you don't walk out alone. You'll be with that McCall kid. Call him out." Styles still says, "You mean Scott? I guess he's still in home. Probably sleeping." Mr. Stilinski ignores him and starts calling, "McCall, I know you're here. Come on out." Scott heard him from behind a tree but didn't budge an inch. He stood there quietly. After calling him for a few seconds, Mr. Stilinski left with Styles and the other deputies. After Scott made sure that they left, he started walking around. Then suddenly he heard a growl of an animal from behind him. He turned around only to see a huge monstrous creature with deep red eyes staring at him. He already started to have an asthma attack and tried to back off. But their creature suddenly lunged at him. He couldn't even capture the creature's movement, only to feel stinging pain to the side of his abdomen. Scott, screaming off. After a few seconds he felt the bite loosen, so he suddenly ran with all his power towards the exit of the forest. The huge creature howled once and ran deep into the forest. While all this was happening, they weren't able to notice a shadowy human figure standing on top of a tree watching them as if it were a drama for him. This shadowy figure was none other than Max. He smirked at the scene and said, "Let the games begin," and swiftly moved with the wind and disappeared. A mile away, Scott was running for his life in the woods nearing the highway. As soon as he stepped into the road, a SUV suddenly skidded and moved beside him. He was scared stiff at this moment. After calming down, he slowly moved towards his home holding the bite mark. Inside the SUV were Max's sister Allison and his mother Victoria. Victoria was driving the car with a stiff expression, while Allison with a concerned face asked, "Mom, do you think that guy is all right? I think we better go check it out." Victoria replies with the same stiff face, "It's nothing. He'd be fine. We didn't hit him, right? So don't worry." Allison calms down a bit. "Okay, Mom. We're already in Beacon Hills. You can drive slowly from now on." Victoria replies, Well, I'm not worried about getting late. What I'm worried about is your brother and father. You know if they're together they'll turn the house upside down. Allison giggles, he. Yeah, you're right about that. They both soon made it to their home. As soon as they opened the door they were shocked to see the scene in front of them. All the clothes were thrown in the living room and fast food boxes were on the couch. Beer canisters were laying all over the floor. Watching this scene Allison was chuckling while Victoria was fuming with rage shouting, Christopher and Maxwell Argent. Get your ass down here. Max, who was meditating in his room, shrieked as soon as he heard this and said to himself, I'm dead meat. And started to arrange books in front of him. Chris, who was tuning his crossbow in the basement, got his hand slipped as soon as he heard this, letting the crossbow fall to the floor. He said to himself, she's here. With a grave expression. In the living room Allison and Victoria were waiting to see Chris walking towards them with a fearful expression saying, honey, you're home. All he got in reply was Victoria's threatening glare and he shut up. After a few seconds they heard a voice from upstairs, Mom, I'm working on my school project. I'll meet you in morning. Good night. Everyone on the living room hearing this had their faces twitched. Victoria was even more pissed of hearing this. So she shouted, Maxwell Argent, your school is opening tomorrow. Don't give me this shitty excuse and get your ass here. Chris had a gleeful face as soon as he heard this. Now he was happy that he came early. Inside his room Max's face was a sight to behold when he heard her. He thought to himself, busted. He slowly made his way towards the living room only to see his father smirking at him, which he thought was saying, think you're a smartass, huh? And Allison was giggling watching the spectacle. And finally his mother fuming with rage. He could have sworn he saw smoke coming out of her ears. He wanted to defuse the situation as he went for a hug, saying, oh, my sweet mother, I'm so happy to see you. As Victoria saw this, only said one sentence, I want the house spotless before I finish my shower. And left them. Chris and Max started to clean up the house super fast. After a couple of minutes Allison came down and helped them while chatting with both of them. As Max and Allison had a brief chat about what they did this summer. Mostly Max lied. After half an hour Victoria came to the living room and led them all to the dinner table. They knew that the dinner was not going to be peaceful. Just as they expected, Victoria started berating them for nearly an hour as she slowly calmed down when Allison said she was tired and wanted to get some rest before tomorrow's class. After finishing dinner the father and son duo gave Allison a grateful look and went to sleep. Chapter 6 First day of school. One early morning Max woke up before everyone else and went for his routine exercise. He knew from today his training would be drastically reduced, because of school. That's the only reason he trained till night in the woods every day in the holidays, was because of this. He knew he had to do something about it, so he made a plan, that is to join the lacrosse team and use it as an excuse for himself to work out. He made his way home earlier than his usual routine and planned to get ready, only to notice that he was late. As he entered his home he saw Allison eating breakfast, telling at him, we're gonna be late in our first day, Max. Get yourself ready, quickly. He went upstairs and took a shower and got ready in 10 minutes. He heard this mother yelling, shower 5 minutes and getting ready 5 minutes. You are your father's son, Max. Chris, hearing this, held his head up high, believing it to be a sign of glory. Max scratched his head and smiled watching this. His mom got in the car ready to drive off. He took the sandwich from the table to his mouth and ran towards the car. Inside the car Allison was sitting quietly. As soon as he entered, she said, took you long enough. Max only replied with a smile, I got lost in the woods while running. Victoria only said, when will you learn to use some better excuses? Max only smiled, while Allison giggled. Allison knew her brother was a bit shameless when lying. So she decided to switch the topic. She said, you planning to do anything interesting this year? Max nodded and said, I'm planning to join the lacrosse team this year. I need to stretch out a bit in high school. I have a reputation to keep up, you know. Allison laughed at him. Haha, you and reputation. I heard from Dad that they call you the handsome loner in school. Max said to his dad in his heart, traitor, and said, hey, don't believe in hearsay. You just wait and watch. I'll show you. Allison only said, yeah, Mr. Popular. We're already late. Let's go, we're here. As they both got out of car, Allison was looking all over her bag trying to find a pen. Watching this, Max mocked, "Hey, well there miss. We're getting late, what are you looking for?" Allison ignored his mocking and said, "Hey, I can't find my pen. Do you have a spare?" Without even looking at her, he threw a pen, saying, "Catch. You owe me one." Allison stared at him. "What do you mean? It's only a pen, Max. No wonder you're a loner. If you're this stingy, how would you ever find a girlfriend?" Max just kept moving forward, saying, Yeah, you just let me worry about that. You better make sure that you're not late, ally." Allison then realized that she was behind him and she'd be even more late compared to him. She shouted at him, "Wait, you idiot." They soon made it to the principal's office and submitted her paperwork. After checking everything, the principal took them towards the class. Few minutes earlier in the classroom, Scott was listening to the siblings' conversation and was kept in looking at girl till she disappeared from his view. As he was thinking about her, the principal made it to their class and was saying, "This year we'll be having a new student with us. Her name is Allison Argent. Yeah, you heard me, she's Mr. Max Argent's twin sister. Get along well." And he turned to the professor in class and said, "Max was delayed due to bringing his sister in, so I hope you'll excuse him." The professor only said, "No problem." The principal nodded to the professor and Max and went out. The professor looking at both of the siblings once and said, "Take your seats." Allison was about to go to seat behind Scott to sit, but was a step slow because Max sat on it before she could reach there. She didn't mind anything and went to sit in front of Lydia. While Allison was sitting, she saw Lydia smiling at her, so she just said, "Hi," and sat in the seat. Max, who was sitting behind Scott, wasn't watching Lydia or Allison. He was watching Scott as he was staring at Allison from the moment they entered the class. He tapped on Scott's shoulder and said, "What are you looking at, McCall?" Only now did Scott realize that Allison's brother was sitting behind him. He turned his head and said, "Oh, nothing, man. She's new here. I don't think I have seen her in Beacon Hills." Max knew that he was lying. He only squeezed Scott's shoulder and said, "Don't get any ideas, McCall. Watch it." Scott just ignored him and continued to stare at the board. But Scott knew that he couldn't get a chance to talk to her with him around. So he planned to talk to her when Max was not around. As the classes continued on, Max ignored it as he was able to remember everything because of his enhanced mind from receiving memories. So he didn't worry. Later that day, it was time for the lacrosse selection. Everyone made their way towards the field. Max was standing next to Coach. Coach knew that this year Max was planning to join the team. So he said, "So, Argent, finally decided to put that body to good use, huh? If you had joined last year, you could have made captain this year. Ah, well, it's better late than never. Get in line, let's see what you got." Then he turned to Scott and said, "McCall. To the goal, now." Scott instantly replied, "Yes, Coach." Max made it to the end of the line waiting for his turn. Meanwhile, Lydia and Allison were watching the team selection. Lydia suddenly said, "You think your brother is gonna make team this year?" Allison was also curious as she replied, "I don't know. He told me in the morning that he was gonna join the team. But I also don't know how good he is. Let's wait and watch." Seeing that Allison also didn't know, Lydia said with pride, "Well, you see him, the guy who's about to shoot. That's my boyfriend, Jackson. He made captain last year." Allison was watching it interestingly and suddenly said, "You said that the shooter was your boyfriend, the captain?" Lydia absent-mindedly replied, "Yeah. What about it?" Allison asked curiously, "If he's the captain, isn't he supposed to be good?" Lydia said while applying her makeup watching the mirror, "Yeah." Allison asked again, "Then why is he not able to score a single shot?" Lydia suddenly turned and asked, "What do you mean?" Allison only pointed towards the field. She turned towards the field to see what's happening. Only to see Scott catching each and every ball thrown by Jackson and others. Max was also watching this spectacle and smiled, such a cheat. He stared at Scott for minutes and waited his turn. When his turn finally came, Coach shouted from the side, "You get a goal here, Argent, and you're in the team." And turned to Scott and shouted, "McCall, you stop every goal today and shoot well, I'm gonna make you captain." As soon as Scott heard this, his eyes were blazing with fire. His wolf instincts went to an extreme high. Scott was already pissed at Max because of Allison's matter in the morning. So now he was just waiting to humiliate him and said, "Come on, Max." Max only said, "You asked for it, McCall," and threw the ball at high speed, but Scott watched the angle he was throwing the ball, and before the ball could reach him, he already turned the pole to his right waiting for the ball to arrive. As a fixed magnet the ball easy landed in the pole's mitt. Coach from the side said, "Argent, I didn't think this would be it. Come on, 2 more tries. I'm sure you can do better." Scott also mocked this time, "Is that all you got, Max?" Even though he said this, in his heart he knew that Max's shot was the fastest he has seen this entire day. But he trusted his instincts could keep up with the speed. Well, always best out of 3. Max knew that if he threw any faster than this, it would arouse suspicion. So he decided to use a different tactic. He took the ball in the mid and started to spin the pole faster and faster. Everyone watching this scene thought that this would be interesting. Meanwhile Scott was trying to predict which angle the ball will in this confusing spinning of pole. But suddenly Max held the pole stopping the spinning only to see the ball inside the mid rotating as faster and faster. He decided that it's the perfect time and threw the ball to Scott's left, only this ball was making a pitch 2 steps before the goal. Scott watching this though that it was way easier than before so he moved the pole to the left to catch the ball, only to see that the ball bounced off from his left side and moved to his right at a faster pace. Even before he could react the ball was in the goal. Everyone gasped at this scene. Chapter 7 First day of school 2 Coach whistled and shouted, "What the hell was that, Argent?" Everyone had the same question in their mind. While Jackson was having a mental breakdown after watching this. He saw how everyone tried to sneak in a goal and failed. He had decided that it was almost impossible to get through McCall, and here is Max easily putting it in. He himself was the best lacrosse player in the team, now these 2 guys out of nowhere were overtaking him. He didn't want to give up. He clenched his fists tightly. Everyone was too busy to notice him now. "Come on, Coach, it's trade secrets," Max said as he winked at them. Everyone knew that they're not gonna get an answer after this. So Coach only said, "Well, you got 1 more shot. Show me what you got here." Max didn't answer. This time he took the ball and started running towards Scott. Scott knew that this isn't going to be easy, so he also ran towards Max. As they were about to collide, Max suddenly shifted his body to the left. Watching this Scott knew that he was going to the side so he decided to block him and went towards him. As he was about to catch him, Max used the reverse end of the pole to balance and push himself to the right. Scott unable to catch him, directly fell to the ground, only turning to see Max easily throw the ball to the goal. Whistles Coach whistles and calls it. Coach's eyes were shining as he watched Scott and Max. He knew he got some unexpected gifts. He directly calls Jackson, "Jackson, get to the goal post. McCall, you shoot. Argent, come here." Max was walking towards Coach. Everyone was talking about what just happened here. Lydia was curiously asking Allison about Max. "Allison, you didn't tell me your brother played that good. I thought we were friends." "Well, neither did I. I thought he was just a bookworm all these days." Allison instantly replied. Lydia said with a smile, "Well, bookworms don't get that kind of body. I heard Dad say that he was training something in the woods every day. I'll have to talk to him about this. I think he must have done it in secret. You know, smart people don't reveal their secrets easily." "That might be true, I guess." "What do you mean?" "It's just my father and him talks about hunting and stuff since he was young. But I've never seen them hunting anything. It's kinda weird though. My family is hiding a lot of secrets I don't know about." Allison replied while pondering about something. Lydia didn't take it to her heart. She stared at Jackson thinking something. And then turned to Scott, as she was watching him easily score point after point. She turned to Allison and asked, "What do you think about this McCall kid?" "I don't know. I think he must have been a good player last year. He must have improved in the holidays," Allison replied. Lydia smirked and said, "That's where you're wrong. He never played last year. He just joined this year like your brother." Allison suddenly stared towards Scott. Scott was on wolf high since he turned to see Allison staring at himself. He just waved at her. In reply she instinctively waved back. Scott was suddenly happy seeing this reaction. But he didn't notice that Jackson was staring at him with killer eyes. Scott turned to face Jackson with even more passion. Lydia, watching the two of them, suddenly smiled and said, "Wow, already throwing the bait, huh? Well, you're faster in this category compared to your brother." "It's not like that. I mean, it was just instinct." Allison instantly denied it. "It doesn't matter. Let's keep watching." Lydia turned to the field to watch the game. Other side of the field, Coach was talking to Max. "What do you think? Think you can take them both, Argent? If you prove to be better than them, I might consider making you the captain." "Coach, you and me both know that if I do that, both of them will be pissed off," Max calmly replied. Coach turned to him and asked, "So what? You afraid, Argent? I've known your father from a long time, and by the looks of it, he doesn't seem too afraid of anything." "Are you like your father, Argent?" Max was thinking. "I'm his mind, not afraid of anything, my ass. He'll be shivering in front of Mom, but he still said, 'When was the last time you've seen me afraid, Coach?'" Laughed. After hearing this, Coach was ecstatic. He called, "McCall, Jackson, both of you on defense. Argent, go shoot." Max was walking towards them and took the ball. He saw Scott was at the goal post while Jackson was in the middle of the field. Max slowly started charging towards them. Watching this, Jackson knew that he shouldn't fall for this tricks. So he carefully observed only to see Max sidestep and jump the other side as slip past him. Scott just watched as Max was closing in on him. He knew one slip up will cost a goal. As he was watching Max held his hand like he was going to take a shot, only to do a spin to build his momentum to throw the ball faster at him. In the blink of an eye, the ball reached Scott as he tried to catch it, only to see that the ball tore through the mid of how pole and went for a goal. Everyone were cheering at this. The coach was whistling as soon as the ball went in. Their coach suddenly shouted, "Everyone say hello to your new captain for lacrosse, Max Argent." Almost everyone was happy, but Scott, who was in wolf mode, went to Coach and said, "Coach, I don't agree with this." "Neither do I," Jackson suddenly voiced from the side. Coach, with a stern expression, asked, "What is it now?" Jackson said, "A captain should be an all-rounder. I don't see him guarding the goal." Coach thought about it and it seemed fair, so he said, "Is that it? Argent, on the defense. Now, you two take a ball and shoot one after the other. Let them come at the same time, Coach." "It doesn't matter anyway," Max interrupted him. Both of them didn't say anything to this, they just took a ball each. Jackson suddenly said to Scott, "You on the right, I'm in the left, same time." Max positioned himself in front of goal. He saw Scott and Jackson coming towards him. Jack threw the ball as fast as he could to Max's left. At the same time, Scott did a huge spin to build the momentum of the ball, just like what Max did previously, and threw it at Max's right. Max, watching then, knew that they planned this together. He knew if he tries to catch Scott's ball, it'll rip through his mitts, so he ignored Scott's ball and caught Jackson's ball easily. And when Scott's ball was about to reach the goal, Max used the back end of the pole like a snooker stick and pushed Scott's ball out of the goal range. Scott was staring wide-eyed at this. Coach was laughing at this scene. Allison and Lydia were whispering something that nobody knows. At the end of the day, Max become the lacrosse team captain. Lydia and Allison become good friends. Scott and Jackson were pissed off. When they were all ready to leave, Lydia came with Allison and invited everyone in the lacrosse team to her party. Scott agreed happily and forgot about everything as he was staring at Allison. Jason didn't say anything, she knew he'd come. Max said he'll come and went home with Allison. When he reached home and started meditating, he found a huge problem. Chapter 8 Party and the pair. When he reached home and started meditating, he found a huge problem. After working out with the lacrosse team, his strength doesn't seem to be grown even a bit. He know that his body has been adapted to the intense training he had done. So normal training was close to useless for him now. While pondering about this, he received a text from his dad to meet him downstairs. After freshening up, he went to the basement to meet Chris and a couple of his friends. As soon as Chris saw Max coming in, he said with a frowning expression, "A news just came in." "What is it?" Max asked. Chris replied, "An alpha on the loose in Beacon Hills." Max didn't have any change his expression, he just calmly said, "Looks like someone wants to carve their name here. This is gonna be a good hunt." Chris didn't think that this was right, so he asked again, "Are you sure about this? This isn't anything like what you've faced before. It's faster and stronger compared to betas and omegas." Max didn't flinch, We hunt those who hunt us. You taught me this. You want me to turn my back, father. Chris didn't expect his son to be like this, so he agreed, okay, but only after fully preparing. And no solo this time. We're traveling in groups. Follow the chain of command. Don't fight it head on. You agree to this, then we have a deal. Max thought about it for a minute and said, okay, I agree, but I need something first. What is it? Chris asked. Max smiled and said, can you get me ankle weights and wrist weights? Chris frowned hearing this. He knew his son wouldn't ask anything unnecessary. But suddenly asking for weights was a bit unexpected to him. Why do you want that? Nothing. Just planned something creative. Just get me each of them varying from 10 to 20 pounds. And a box of nails too. Max said this without any change of emotion. Chris finally sighed and agreed, okay, you'll get it by the end of the week. And from today you'll be coming with us at night for patrolling. I don't want you running off with your sister for partying and stuff. She doesn't know anything yet, so she'll be free for now. Those who knows the world are burdened by it. You took the mantle from me at an early age. You know what's out there. You need to be ready for whatever that comes towards you. Max knew why his father was telling him this. Ever since he was young he was interested in these mystical creatures. He knew how dangerous the alpha is, but he could tell them that he is almost as strong as an alpha. He has to keep his secrets locked away. Max suddenly thought of something and said, I think we should tell Allison about everything. I mean, she already suspects that we're hiding something. And I don't want her to learn this from grandpa or aunt. They're both lunatics. If I wasn't smart enough, I would have been turned into one of them. Chris hearing this thought seriously and replied, I know you mean well, but now isn't the time. Let her get used to the people here. We'll tell her slowly. I don't want you rushing things. Max frowned hearing this and said, I won't say anything for now, but try keeping Aunt and Grandpa away from her. If I hear that they're coming here, I'll break the news even before you know it. Chris didn't know whether to agree to this or not, so he only said, when the time comes, we'll see. Now get yourself ready. Max nodded hearing this and walked away. Watching him walk away, Chris sighed, Gerard, what did you try to do to my son? He seems to hate you too more than those wolves. Others in the room didn't speak till now, but they knew that their Argent family is complicated, so they decided to shut themselves. Max told Allison that he couldn't join the party because he was tired from the workout in the field today. Allison just humped once and didn't say much and went to the party. Max went back to his room to check out his new costume. He decided to use an outfit similar to Black Goku, but instead of GI he decided to switch up with black leather jacket. After donning it he went downstairs to meet his father and his team. As soon as he entered everyone gave him a weird look, as he was not wearing the usual pants. He just said, it's for better movement. Nobody said anything after that, and they all went out to search for this berserk alpha running around in Beacon Hills. While they were searching for their alpha, our little beta Scott is in his home with Styles discussing about werewolves. Scott managed to accept this new identity of his after meeting Derek on the way home. Now what they were looking for is the identity of Max. Styles was convinced that Max was a werewolf and a strong one at that. So he was searching books and online for information. Scott on the other hand was thinking about Allison. And he suddenly remembered about the party. And decided to get dressed. Styles watching him asked, what are you doing? Getting ready to go to the party. Scott said, did you forget that there are werewolves and that Argent kid might be one of them? Styles, now I don't have time to think about that, buddy. Scott, that new girl might be one of them too, you know that she's his sister, right? Styles, yeah, but it doesn't change anything, right? If she's a werewolf then I might be able to get closer. If she's not a werewolf, then I could still have a change with her for a normal life. Scott, I don't like where you're going with this, but try not to get killed by them. Scott and Styles argued for a while. At the end Scott decided to go to the party leaving Styles in his home. When Scott reached Lydia's home he saw Allison getting off her mother's car. He somehow managed to bring up the courage to go and talk to her. Allison was getting off the car when she saw Scott coming towards her, so she smiled at him. Soon Scott came to her and asked, isn't your brother Max coming? She knew he was just hitting up a conversation and she was unknowingly happy about that, so she replied, he said he was tired because of the workout today at lacrosse field. As soon as Scott heard this, he was instantly happy. For some reason he was still vigilant towards Max. But that he's not here, he decided to stick around her. So he said, "Think we could go together, because I don't have much friends in there." Allison smiled at him and said, "Of course. Even I don't know anyone there except Lydia." They both walked together to the house. Lydia was waiting for her two new friends on the living room. Soon Shore saw Scott and Allison walking in and chatting happily. She went to them and said, "So are you two, together now or something?" Both of them at the same time replied, "No," and again laughed at themselves. Lydia saw this and said, "Well, whatever you say." Chapter 9. Attack. Scott was having a great time with Allison. They got closer to each other. Then they decided to share contact info. They both left the party late in the night. They even ignored the weird looks everyone giving them. While they were enjoying their time together, on the other side of town, Chris and team were chasing behind a huge monstrous creature with deep red eyes. After half an hour, the creature suddenly jumped off a cliff to the other side. Max saw this and knew he could catch it, but still decided to play it safe and didn't chase it. Time skip. Weeks went by and Allison and Scott's relationship got better and better. They were practically boyfriend-girlfriend. But they had to keep it as a secret in front of everyone because Max was in their class sitting beside them. Max knew what they were doing, but he decided not to interfere. He knew they were meant to be like this because of fate. And he knew that Allison has to find someone she likes other than himself, but he still noted in his mind that the minute Scott hurts his sister's feelings he'd chop all three of his legs. Scott didn't know much about werewolf and other supernatural creatures, so he decided to ask the help of an expert, Derek. This time Derek took both Scott and Styles near his home and showed them a copy of bestiary. But he didn't tell them about the hunters. He knew the minute he tells them about hunters, they both would start to snoop around the Argent family. And that would be inviting trouble. Derek knew that they still suspect him being the one that bit Scott. So he told them that the dead body of the girl that they found was his sister and buried the remaining half of the body near his house. They both sympathized with Derek. Derek later kept on advising Scott not to stick around Allison, but Scott just ignored his warnings. Styles came up with theories saying that Max could be the one that bit Scott that night, but was instantly dismissed by Derek. Soon everyone in Beacon Hills heard that there was an animal attack and few people died. Argent started their patrol every night with more vigilance. Max was using ankle weights and wrist weights every day and soon felt his strength slowly increasing. Full moon day. Scott was in his room tied up in chains, but he suddenly heard a howl. He somehow managed to untangle himself and ran out of the window. Styles, who was outside the room, shouted, "Scott! Scott! Scott!" And he immediately called Derek. "Hey, Derek, Wolfie!" Scott just ran out when Papa Wolf howled. "I can't catch him. You better do something or you won't be facing only an alpha but also a beta too." Derek on the other side was frowning hearing this. "I'll see what I can do." Derek immediately ran out of the Hale mansion towards where he heard the howl. Max and their team were about to capture this huge alpha, but this cunning alpha gave them the slip. Soon they heard a howl half a mile distance from them. Max decided that it's still not time to kill Peter, so he didn't try much. When they got there they only found Scott in wolf mode with extra facial hair running around. Seeing this scene, Chris took a crossbow and shot an arrow through Scott's arm into the tree behind him. Max knew it was Scott, so he shot couple of 3-inch nails to Scott's bicep. And just as he was about to throw a couple more, he saw Derek running towards Scott with his fastest speed. Max took this opportunity as target practice. He shot 3 nails at Derek's left shoulder, and again threw 2 more to his forearm and his palm. Scott, who was watching as people with crossbow and automatic guns coming towards him, freaked out. And when he caught the silhouette of the guy who was throwing nails, he was scared shit. Because it was his classmate and his girlfriend's brother Max. He didn't know what was going on. Now, he suddenly felt himself freed from the tree and turned to see Derek helping him with only one arm. His other hand seemed to be unusable, it was just hanging there. Scott and Derek supported each other shoulder to shoulder as they ran. Derek was feeling more and more painful as more nails were piercing his back. Scott only felt 2 nails pierce each of his shoulders from the back. After that he couldn't feel his arms. The only thing he could feel was pain. Max on the other side stopped after shooting a few nails, as he was enjoying the show as Scott and Derek went limping. Chris came to the side and was about to shoot with his crossbow, but was stopped by Max. He shouted at him, "They're getting away, Max." Max didn't even glance at him and said, "They were just the distractions." "You heard the howl, right? That was meant to draw those two and us together. They're just useless. One of them is Derek, which you already know. The other one seems to be a new one. Well, the new one didn't kill anyone yet. So let's just leave and continue looking for that cunning old alpha." After hearing what Max said, everyone seems to agree with him. Chris also nodded but still said, "But we still shouldn't have simply let them go like this. They should at least know what happens when a hunter comes for them." For this Max smiled and said, "I knew you'd say this, so I kinda used my nails to pierce their acupuncture points. They're on for one hell of a night, Dad. I don't think they'll forget this night. Ha ha." Chris instantly smiled and said, "That's my boy. Ha ha ha." As they both were laughing, their teammates were feeling a chill ran down their spine. They knew that this father-son duo were crazy, but they didn't expect this. They was sweating their whole body. Finally they decided to finish up for the night and went back. Scott and Derek were limping towards Scott's home. Scott's mom Melissa wasn't in the house as she was stuck at the hospital due to the extra shifts. As soon as Scott and Derek reached the house, Stiles was waiting for them with open door. Scott was in a daze by all the things he saw tonight, and was shivering from the pain in both arms. They all went upstairs to the bathtub to clean their wounds. Stiles was looking at them, and suddenly he stood up and walked towards them and asked, pointing to the nails in their body, "What the hell is that?" Chapter 10 Hunters, what the hell is that? Scott and Derek turned to see that Stiles was pointing at Derek. Derek immediately washed the blood on his back and checked in the mirror. As soon as he saw what it was, he was frightened and cold sweat was pouring all over his body. There it was, in his back, 1-inch short nails, around 40 of them pierced and arranged in letters. As they carefully read that it was a 3-letter word, "Bye," was seen there. Scott started to have a mental breakdown. He started screaming, "He's gonna kill me. He's gonna kill me. He knows who I am. He'll come and kill me." Derek suddenly slapped him and brought him back to his senses and said, "If he's gonna kill anyone, it'll be me and that alpha. You have nothing to worry about." Scott and Stiles didn't believe him. Stiles said, "I don't mind you and Papa Wolf getting killed by nails. Well, I mean, who does even uses nails to kill these days?" Scott also said, "I'm dating his sister, man. The minute he knows about that, I'm a dead man. Can you be sure that I'm safe after this?" Stiles was taken aback by this sentence. So he asked, "What do you mean by that, Scott? What the hell is he saying, Dick? Don't tell me it's Allison's brother Max who did this to you." Derek only nodded and said, "Yeah, it's that Argent kid. He's the youngest hunter I've ever seen. But looking at his skills, he seems more than enough to take us both down without breaking a sweat. And Scott, I don't think he wanted to kill us. If he wanted to kill us today, we would have been dead in those hunters' hands." Stiles interjected suddenly, "What do you mean by hunters? I mean, could they kill you guys and walk away like nothing happened?" Scott suddenly became interested. Derek watching these two guys, he knew that he has to tell them everything or else they'll never trust him. So he decided to tell them. "Scott, do you know why even with all these powers you rarely ever heard about them except from myths and legends before this? Isn't it because their society doesn't accept us and treat us differently?" Scott said. Derek shook his head and said, "With such power, why would we ever care about what others think? It's not because of what you said. The reason is these hunters. The hunters have been hunting us from centuries. The story about them goes back as far as the first werewolf. But now that's not important. What's important is that hunters have always existed in every town, every county, city and state. As we belong to the supernatural side, they are of the natural side. That means, they're of humans." "They?" Stiles suddenly interrupted him. "You're saying that it was a human that did this to both of you? Haven't you seen yourself in the mirror? Tell me, what kind of human could do that? What kind of wolves are you? Getting your assess handed to you by a 16-year-old kid?" Scott didn't talk. He just waited for Derek to finish. Derek started at Stiles and growled and said, "You wanna try saying that again?" Stiles immediately shut up. Looking at this, Derek continued, "As I was saying, they are humans who trained themselves for years and specialize in hunting our kind. Over the last 2 decades their weapons have improved, but our kind have slowly been reduced in numbers. If you need an example for this, you can see my family history. They locked everyone in our house, poured gasoline and burned my entire family and my house to the ground. Scott and Styles gasped after hearing this. Derek paused for a second and continued, they say that they have a code, we hunt those who hunt us. That's what they said. But what did the kids our family do? There were so many innocent people in our house that day, those damn hunters, they didn't even flinch while they slaughtered them. Derek was pulling off the nails one by one from his body while saying this. He could only clench his fist and continue, okay, forget about that. Now back to the topic at hand. That Argent kid that nailed us today. I mean, I have seen skills similar to him from hunters who's been hunting our kind for decades, but never did I expect this from him. He's the true monster there. Do you remember when I was telling you to stay away from that Allison girl? This was why. If she's also anywhere like him or close to his strength, then the supernaturals in Beacon Hills are in for a wide awakening. Scott was clenching his fist as soon as he heard about Allison being a huntress. He knew he loved her, but he didn't know how she would react after knowing that he's a werewolf. He thought about it and decided not to make any decisions impulsively and wait for now. Styles on the other hand suddenly turned and asked, what? You mean to tell me that there are other supernatural beings in Beacon Hills? Why didn't we know anything about this before today? Derek just said, does knowing this give you any solution to the problem at hand? Listen here you two, what you've seen till now is just a peek in the supernatural world. As for other supernatural beings, they decided to keep low-key and not gather any attention. Now with this alpha showing up and started slaughtering everyone, the hunters decided to put an end to it. By my guess, I think they were hunting that alpha, it used us as distraction to run away. By this alone you should know how terrifying hunters are. Scott hearing this said, so they can hunt us like animals and we can't do anything about it. Derek reminded him, did you remember how I told you that they won't kill you? That's because you haven't killed any human yet. The minute you kill any human, they'll start hunting you. And try not to mess with their family. I know you like that girl, but given chance she'll stick an arrow through your head. So stay away from her. Derek let them understand the situation they are in and said, see, Scott, I'm a loner, I could just skip town to get away from them. But you're not like me. You've got your family and friends and everything here. You can't just leave everything and walk away. So think carefully before you make any decisions. By now Derek had almost pulled all the nails in his body, but the wound wasn't healing. Damn, he used a new kind of wolfsbane for this small nails which he used to nail this. On my back, this probably might leave a scar. That kid was just toying with us. Growl. Derek couldn't help but growl thinking about Max. Styles also helped Scott remove the 3-inch nails from his shoulders and arms. Scott was flinching every time Styles pulled out a nail. Compared to Derek's small nails, these 3-inch nails weren't laced with wolfsbane, so it was healing pretty well, but the pain wasn't going away. Derek was finally able to move his left hand after removing the 3-inch nails. And with Styles helping him, they removed all the nails in his back too. Styles was chuckling watching the behind Derek. After getting dressed they decided to leave for their home. Styles wished goodbye to Scott and turned to Derek. Styles smirking slowly said, hey Derek, bye. Derek growled at Styles and decided not to speak anymore. He went towards his Hale mansion. Scott in his home couldn't sleep after hearing about hunters and how Allison might be one of them. Unbeknownst to Scott, Max was standing right behind him, watching Scott with a smile. After a few minutes he disappeared from there. Scott was thinking about talking to Allison about them being hunters, but after thinking that she might talk to Max about this, he decided not to speak about this and slowly dozed off. Chapter 11 News about Kate. Next day morning Scott woke up with a tearing sensation of pain in both of his arms. He knew that this was because of the weird nails hit. Scott thought for a moment. He knew if he goes to school he'll meet Max and others, and if he couldn't move his arms right, Max will instantly know that he's a werewolf. So he decided to take the day off and heal in home. After a few minutes he texted Allison saying that he was sick. And called Styles and told him to cover for him. Allison, who saw Scott's text, was a bit worried and decided to meet him later at evening. She packed her books and went downstairs only to hear her mom scolding Max in the kitchen in whispers. She silently made her way beside the kitchen hearing, what do you think that beta is gonna do? Sooner or later it'll lose control and attack someone. That time you'll be the one responsible for that. We should end them the first chance we get. Victoria's voice. Max replied, Mom, you remember what we discussed, don't you? We stick to the code. The only threat is their big guy. As soon as, Max suddenly stopped and turned towards the stairs and said, Allie, it's not nice to eavesdrop on others. We're getting late, come on. Victoria's face suddenly frowned. Then she saw Allison walking down. Allison has a confused look on her face. While Max just smiled. He knew she was already here, he just wanted to let her hear some details from the conversation. So when he lets her know about the supernatural side, it won't come out as a shock. Allison was about to ask what they were talking about, but before she could even start, Max dragged her saying, Hey, we're gonna be late. Come fast. Allison couldn't say anything and went towards the car only to see her father waiting for them. Max came to Chris's side and said, You know, you could get me a bike. That way you won't have to wait around for us. Chris just smiled and said, I was planning to get you one for your birthday. But if you want it a bit early I could make some arrangements. Watching his smiling father, Max knew that he was up to something, so he said, What are you scheming, Dad? That look on your face says it all. Come on now, what's the deal? Chris, hearing this, smirked and said, We'll discuss about that in evening. Now let's go. Allison in the side was thinking about the conversation between her mother and Max. She was sure that they all were hiding something. So in evening she also decided to join their little talk, but only secretly. Soon they reached their school. Max was searching for Scott. He wanted to get a look at his face. But soon discovered that Scott wasn't anywhere near the school. So they went to attend the class. As soon as he entered the class he saw Lydia coming towards them. She turned to Allison and said, Tonight we're having a party at my place, you're coming. Then she turned to Max and asked, Are you coming this time or you'll just disappear like last time? Max smiled and said, Disappear like last time. And just walked to his desk. Allison suddenly thought about dragging Scott from home in evening. As whispered it in Lydia's ears. Lydia also thought that this was for the best. But she still said, You know, sooner or later he'll figure it out about you and Scott. Allison smiled and said, Well, my family also keeping secrets from me, so I'm also doing the same. All is fair in love and war, Lydia. Lydia hearing this suddenly smirked and said, So you love Scott, huh? If your brother hears about it he'll kick Scott's ass. Allison suddenly panicked hearing about love, and waved her hand and said, Hey it's nothing like that. Me and Scott, he and I are. She wasn't finishing the sentence, so Lydia asked, Yeah, you and Scott are. Allison decided not to answer this and said, Come on, we're late. And ran to get seat. Inside the class Styles was carefully observing the peacefully sitting Max. And the still couldn't believe that he took down both Derek and Scott with nails. And he suddenly heard Max talking, Don't stare at me like that, people might misunderstand us. If you're really swinging on the same side, you can try Danny. Max turned to Danny and said, Dude, Styles saying that he's into you. Talk it out, man. Styles watching this suddenly stood up and said, No, Danny. This is a misunderstanding. Danny just shrugged him off. Whatever, man. I'm already in a relationship. So I hope you understand. Almost everyone in class was laughing at this spectacle. Classes went on smoothly. Lydia was teasing Allison most of the time. Styles was taking a glance at Max every once in a while. Lacrosse practice went easily for Max. When they were about to leave, Allison was talking with Lydia saying that her phone went missing. They chose to go leave a complaint and left to their respective homes. Max and Allison reached home and Allison went to get dressed for the party. Max had to talk to his dad. Soon Lydia came to their home with Jackson to pick up Allison. Max just waved at them and went to basement. Allison joined Lydia and left with them. In the car Jackson asked with that stuffed face, Where to? Scott's home. We're picking him up too. Lydia said with a smile. She knew Jackson didn't like Scott much, but still put up with him because of her. Allison was happy hearing about Scott. She wanted to call him but she lost her phone, so she thought of giving him a surprise. In Scott's home, Scott and Styles were discussing how to keep Scott alive if Max wants to kill him. Scott's hands were back to normal from a day of resting. He was moving his shoulders to check if there was anything wrong. and replied, I don't know, Styles. We need to come up with a plan and fast. Styles said, so basically, if he knows you're werewolf you're dead, if he knows you're dating his sister you're dead, and if he figures out that you're a werewolf and you're dating his sister, you're dead, right? Hearing this, Scott looked a little pale. He knew he fucked up this time real bad. While he was thinking he heard his phone beeping. When he opened the message and read it he was shocked. It was Allison's text saying that she's stuck in school lab and there's a huge animal running around and she's trying not to make any noise. Scott suddenly said, Styles, Allison is stuck in school. Alpha is also there. Drive. Styles didn't hesitate and almost fell over while running downstairs from Scott's room. Scott sent a message to Derek saying that the Alpha is at school. And ran off. While they were driving, Scott ignored ever care about his identity and was trying to call Max, to let him know the situation. But to his frustration Max wasn't picking up. In the Argent family house they were having a meeting in the basement. Chris was telling Max, you'll get your bike next thing tomorrow, but I want you to watch over Allison. Max nonchalantly replied, come on Dad, she's my sister. Nobody is going to hurt her. Chris said, matters regarding the Alpha and those betas are out. Your grandfather is sending Kate here. As soon as Max heard this his eyes turned cold. Only now did he understand what he meant by watching over Allison. So he just asked, when is she coming? In 2 days. Don't go all psycho on her. She's still your aunt. We don't kill our own. Remember that. Chris warned him. Max just said, she's some family. You do know what she did to the Hale family, right? And don't give me that no evidence bullshit. I've been around them long enough to know what kind of people they are. Chris didn't retort this time and continued to talk about the Alpha. Jackson, Lydia and Allison were about to reach Scott's home when they saw Styles's Jeep driving towards their school with high speed. Watching this, Allison knew that Scott and Styles would be together, said to Jackson, Jackson, follow them. Jackson didn't say anything, just frowned and followed the Jeep from a distance. Chapter 12. The Real Monster. Scott and Styles reached the school. Styles took out his baseball bat. Scott looked at him weirdly. What are you gonna do with that? Styles said, you have your claws and fangs, I have my bat. It's my good luck charm. Scott just ignored him and sent a text to Max saying that the Alpha is in school and that his sister is stuck inside. After that he ran towards the school. Right after they both entered the school, Jackson's car came from behind and parked there. Allison and Lydia got off the car. Watching them, Jackson said, where do you think you two are going? Allison just replied, I'm going to check what they're up to. I heard that he was sick in the morning. Now he's doing this. Something feels fishy. Lydia also nodded, I agree. Those two are up to something, I can feel it. Jackson mocked her, what? You're all psychic now. Lydia didn't reply and went together with Allison. Watching this, Jackson with no choice, so he followed up. Scott, who was inside, was trying to find Allison by her smell. But he couldn't find anything. Styles was watching his left and right, trying to put on brave face. They both suddenly felt a wind move past them. When they turned around they both saw Derek staring at them with deep blue eyes. He asked, what are you two doing here? Scott replied, we're looking for Allison. We got a text from her. She was the one who let us know about Alpha. Derek replied, you dumbass, try texting her back and check where she is. Scott suddenly thought about this, and texted her, but no reply came. What's going on? She can't talk, but she can obviously text me. Derek yelled at him, idiot, this is a trap. Let's go now. But before he could run he felt like he was hit by a truck and flew to nearly 20 meters before he felt paralyzed. Scott and Styles only saw a huge beast staring at them with deep crimson red eyes. They both tried to run towards the exit only to see Jackson, Lydia and Allison struggling to open the door. Scott suddenly asked, Allison, are you all right? Allison looked at him weirdly and said, what do you mean? We were just following you to see what you were up to. What's going on, Scott? Scott didn't expect this and told them, let's move, there's a huge animal here, the same one that's been attacking all over town. They started to run towards any opened room, only to find their lab door with its keys. Everyone went inside and locked the doors and reinforced it. Scott immediately asked Allison, why did you text me that you were stuck in school? Allison replied, no I didn't. I lost my phone in evening. Scott instantly knew that this was a trap, and tried plan something. Stiles beside him suddenly told him, try calling him again, he might pick up. So Scott decided to call him again to check. Few minutes earlier Max finished the meeting with his father and I went to his room. He checked his phone to see tons of missed calls from Scott and a message saying that the Alpha is school and good sister is stuck there. He frowned seeing this, and ran out of the house with lightning speed. He reached the school in just a minute. He saw the front entrance jammed by a wrench. He took it out and went in. He went to the principal's office and took the keys to all the rooms. And went to the nearby lab. He tried turning the lights on but it was of no use. He knew everyone was headed to this direction, so he left the key hanging at the door. Soon he saw Scott and Allison talk about the mismatched message, and Stiles telling Scott to call him. He knew it's about time to let them know, but before that he needed to knock Lydia and Jackson. So he threw an acupuncture needle behind their neck and paralyzed their moment. The phone in his pocket vibrated. He took it out. Scott heard the phone was still ringing, was ecstatic as soon he had him pick up. He shouted, "Where the hell are you?" Only to hear a voice from his back saying, "Right behind you, McCall." As soon as everyone heard this they shivered. They couldn't believe it. There was a guy sitting behind them and they didn't even notice him. Allison watching this suddenly asked, "What's going on, Max? How are you here? I thought you were in home." Max ignored her and make a chop behind Lydia and Jackson. Scott and Allison asked in unison, "What are you doing?" Max faintly said, "They don't need to see what's to happen next." Max then turned to Allison and said, "You wanted to know what me, Mom and Dad were hiding from you, right?" Allison suddenly thought of something and said, "Yes." Max turned to Scott and ordered him, "McCall, show her." Scott instantly turned pale. He knew exactly what Max is talking about. Allison was watching Scott with a confused look. Max again shouted, "McCall, either you turn now or forget about seeing her ever again." Hearing this, Scott didn't hesitate. He turned to his half-wolf form. Allison watching this was scared stiff. She ran into Max's arms. Max just rubbed her head and asked her, "Ally, now I'm asking you something seriously. You answer me honestly. Look at him and tell me what you think right now." Scott didn't know what to do. He just stood there in his half-wolf form with a sad face looking at the scared Allison. Allison slowly turned and saw half-wolf Scott looking at her with a sad expression. She took some courage and took a better look at him. Now she didn't feel scared as before. She reached out and touched his almost hairy face. She turned to Max and said, "Nothing much really. Feels a bit weird, but still feels like Scott." Max was about to talk when the lab door was banged from the other side. He frowned and looked at the door. To the right, Stiles was holding a baseball bat with shivering hands. He asked, "Stiles, what are you gonna do with that bat?" Stiles just replied, "Of course I'll hit him in his head." Max laughed at him and took his bat and pushed him to the side. And said, "Stiles, if you're hitting somewhere, hit where it counts. Don't waste a good opportunity." He then turned to Allison and said, "Ally, have you ever seen a monster?" Allison looked at Scott once more and shook her head and said to Max, "No." Max just said, "You'll see now." As soon as he said this, the door bust open and a 3-meter monstrous creature came in and stood in front of Max. Max didn't say anything. He just swung the bat from the bottom towards the top in between the legs of the creature. The bat directly hit its groin and the baseball bat was instantly shattered by the force of the hit, as the creature kneeled and let out a sad howl. Everyone were scared stiff as the Alpha made its way into the room, but as soon as they saw the next scene, they were speechless. All three of them had the same thought as they looked at Max, "You're the real monster here." Chapter 13. The talk. 1. After hitting the Alpha, Max told Scott to carry Jackson and Lydia and told everyone to leave. He went towards Peter Alpha and said in his ears, "I told you to stay away from my family, but you had to look for her, huh? Well, I'm going to give you a reminder you'll never forget." Max took one of Peter's hand and chopped at it. The arm came off separately. Peter only flinched for a second and started screaming. The hit to his groin was a bit too hard, as his mind went into a state of blankness, so when he cut off his arm, he woke up and started screaming. Max just walked away slowly saying, "Kate is coming in 2 days. Better finish what you started. And again I'm reminding you, stay away from my people." Max just walked away leaving the screaming Peter there. When he came out he saw Scott and the others waiting by the car. He went towards them and pointed at Lydia and Jackson and said, "Put them in the car, we'll talk about everything later." Scott and Styles seated them in the car. Max woke them up. As soon as they woke up, Jackson started shouting, "What the hell is going on, McCall? And why is he here? And how in the hell did we get in my car?" Lydia just stared at them and turned towards Allison, kept on glaring at her as if saying, "You better tell me everything." Max just came to their window and said, "I just found out something about Scott and Allison. So I wanted to have a chat with Scott. Who knew he'd run away just as I started to talk? And you joined in the fray later and fainted by something I set up for Scott and Styles. Ah, you just ruined my entire plan." As soon as they heard this, Jackson just smirked at Scott, thinking about his misfortune. Lydia still had her suspicion. At this moment Styles butted in, "Why do you think I brought in my bat?" Still, it wasn't much of use. After their small chat, Max told Jackson and Lydia that they had a ride and bid them farewell. After that he turned towards the other three and said, "I think it's time we all come in clean. McCall, let's go to your place." Hearing this, Scott went stiff. For the first time he felt like he didn't want to go home. Styles didn't notice Scott's situation and said, "Where's our ride, Max?" Max just turned and said, "Let me just call a cab," and took his phone out. Allison asked him, "How did you get here faster than us?" He faintly said, "Oh, I ran." Hearing this, all three of their faces wet, twitching. By the time they came to their senses, Max had already called for a cab. Then he turned to Scott, "So McCall, you got something to tell me?" Scott started sweating after hearing this, but still managed to talk. "I'm a werewolf." Max stared at him and asked, "And?" Styles and Allison were nervous as they both were worried about what might happen next. Scott was also a bit worried, but still he said, "And I'm dating your sister." Max just smiled for a second and his came back to its calm self. He said, "Let's talk in your house. Our ride is here." Soon a cab came in. Everyone hopped in. When they were halfway to Scott's home, Max's phone started ringing. Max took out his phone and received it. His mom asked him a call tone, "Where are you, Max?" Max had an ominous premonition hearing that voice, so he quickly said, "Mom, they're a study group at one of my friends. Me and Allison will be stuck here for a while. Bye." And he hung up the call. Scott and others were staring at him weirdly. Max asked in an annoyed tone, "What?" Allison just giggled and said, "You know she'll find out that you're lying." Max just smiled and said, "Not if you back me up." He was still thinking that he forgot something. In the Argent house, Victoria was boiling with rage when she heard Max in phone. She only saw the shattered door in front of her now, which Max broke when he left running from the house. Chris was hiding in the basement. He knew today wasn't going to be peaceful, so he decided to go out for patrol with his team. Soon Max and others reached Scott's home. As usual, Melissa was stuck in hospital with extra shifts. After settling down, Allison barraged Max with questions. "What is all this, werewolf? Who was that monster? Why are you so calm when you were there? And what does any of this have anything to do with our family?" Scott and Styles just watched, didn't talk for now. Max knew it was about time that he told them about the recent events. So he said, "Allie, in this world there are a lot of monsters, the ones that you read in myths and legends, most of them are real. And the thing that attacked you guys was an alpha werewolf. And your Scott here is also a werewolf, but not a dangerous one. As for what it has with our family, we hunt them as we're their hunters that are from an accident family dating back to centuries. But only kill those that have killed humans." At this time Styles said, "That's what you say, but it's hard to believe." Max just ignored him and waited for Allison to reply. Allison took a few minutes to calm down, and replied, "So why hide this from me? And why are you telling me this now?" Max started at her and said, "It's because our Aunt Kate is coming in 2 days." Allison asked in a confused tone, "What does this have anything to do with her?" Not Max turned towards Styles and said, "You must think that because of the Hale Mansion fire that every hunter is a born killer. But the person who burned down the house is my Aunt Kate. She was following my grandfather's orders." Allison was gasping after hearing this shocking news. She couldn't believe that her favorite aunt was such a cold-blooded killer. But decided to believe Max, as she has always trusted him. Scott and Styles stared at Max as they didn't fully believe him. Max saw this and said, "Hey, don't look at me like that, guys. I hate both of them more than anyone here. But I can't kill them because of this. If I do that, our family will have an internal conflict. I don't want to be the one starting that." Allison was dumbstruck after hearing this. She didn't know why her brother hated her aunt and grandfather so much. At this time Scott decided to ask the question which was bothering him from the start. "So can you tell us why you're so strong? I mean, I know your family belongs to the humans, but don't you think you're a bit too strong?" Max suddenly had a downcast expression and said, "McCall, everyone has a price to pay for their strength. You become strong, but you became a werewolf. My price on the other hand was even more high." He clenched his fist till it made cackling sounds and said, "When I was a kid around 5 years old." Chapter 14 The Talk To. He clenched his fist till it made cackling sounds and said, "When I was a kid around 5 years old, I had a friend called Selena. I was very close to her, closer than with Allison. We used to play around every day. Kate, Allison and her friends would tease me about her very often. One day Selena told me a secret, that she was a werewolf. I started laughing at that. So she showed me her bright yellow eyes. When I saw that I wasn't scared, I was happy that I found a special friend. But she told me not to tell anyone. I was very happy that day and didn't take her warning and went home with a very happy face. When I reached home, Kate, seeing me happy, walked up to me and asked if got kissed from my little girlfriend. I instantly denied it and spilled the beans about her glowing yellow eyes. Kate just smiled at me and rubbed my hair and went inside. Even I didn't think much about that." Max paused here and watched the other three. Scott and Styles had a pretty good idea what might have happened after that. Allison was still thinking, but soon Max continued. He said, "That night Kate came and woke me up, saying that she had a surprise for me. I thought it was gonna be a party or something, but she took me to Selena's home. When I went there, there were 7 people holding down Selena and her parents. Gerard called me and told me to take a good look at them and said that they're monsters. He threw mountain ash at them. Selena's eyes turned yellow while her parents turned into half-wolf form with blue eyes. I got scared as soon as I saw her parents. Gerard told me to look at the true face of the monsters. Then he pulled out a gun and shoot Selena's father. Selena and her mother was crying. Max's eyes were bloodshot while saying this. Allison was on the verge of crying hearing this. Scott and Styles had a sad face. Max continued, "I shouted them to stop it. But they didn't even listen. Kate told me that's if given these monsters a chance they'd kill me without even flinching an eye. She then took a knife and slit her mother's throat. Then Gerard threw a knife to me and told me to kill Selena. I was crying saying no no no. Gerard made me hold the knife and clenched his fist over mine. I was a kid of 5.5 years. I couldn't even resist him. He made me stab at her heart. I was crying and shouting for him to stop as I was watching her as slowly closed her eyes. After she died, they looked at their bodies with disgust. While say this, Max clenched his fists so hard that his nails pierced his skin. You could see light bleeding. Allison was already tearful. Scott and Styles didn't say anything, but in their hearts they marked the names of Gerard and Kate. After a few minutes Max calmed down and said, "That day I decided to be strong. If I had been strong that day, Selena would be alive right now. You tell me, McCall, was this price worth it for me to get stronger?" Scott just stared at Max and didn't know what to say. So he slowly said, "Now you're so strong, right? Why don't you kill them yourself?" Max shouted at him, "You think I didn't try? I killed 6 of them 2 years ago, one by one I hunted them down. But I couldn't touch Gerard or Kate. If they die by my hand, the Hunter Council will disband my entire family and put a price on each and everyone's head." All 3 of them looked at Max with a look of pity. Max just ignored their looks and turned to Allison and continued, "Now Allie, if Kate got to know about McCall and you, what do you think she'll do? If a similar thing happens to you, you'll be mentally broken, and that's what Gerard needs. He manipulates everyone when they're at their weakest. He'll turn you into another bloody butcher. And I don't want to see that happen." Scott was looking at Max with a grateful look. Allison knew that Max wouldn't have said anything if Kate wasn't coming to town. She wanted to say something, but Styles, who was quiet all this time, shouted at Max, "So you just left them? What's the point of having so much strength if you can't even avenge them?" Scott yelled at him, Styles. But Max you think I'd let them go that easily? The day I watched Selena die in my arms I decided to make them pay. I'll kill them slowly, I'll let them know what is pain before they die. If they step into Beacon Hills, they'll never leave alive. They're only safe with their crew outside this town, but not here. Max turned to Allison and said, I know you like our aunt. But know one thing, if you ever let your guard down, she'll turn you against Scott. Our family has a code. We hunt those who hunt us, but I don't think this will be enough to protect Scott from Gerard and Kate. When I watched her die, I decided to change the code to, kill your foes to protect your friends. I didn't want to lose anyone anymore. And I didn't want anyone else to go through what I had to go through. After that day I trained with Dad. And hunted down all the supernatural creatures that Dad missed in his days, just to make sure they don't come for revenge. Allison made a firm decision as not to interfere between Max and Kate. And also made sure to keep a distance from Kate. Scott and Styles decided to stay away from Kate and Gerard after hearing this. Max knew that they were all tense at this moment. So he decided to ease the mood and turned to Styles and asked, What are you thinking, Styles? Styles said, I'm thinking about the way you talked with Scott at school today. Max asked with a curious look, Talked what? Styles continued, You know the way you told him to show her his werewolf side. I mean, did you know that Scott was a werewolf before or only figured it out today? Max smiled and said, Oh, I knew from the start of this year. Styles was about to ask him last night's attack on both Scott and Derek, but Scott was quicker. Then why did you attack me and Derek with so many nails? You know, I could barely move my hands around this morning. Allison suddenly glared at Max after hearing this and asked, What nails? And what attack? Max, you better spit it out. Max laughed at this and said to Scott, You think I'd let you off for dating my sister behind my back? That was a lesson for you. And also my chance to bully the guy who's dating my sister. You know, you should have told me about it in the beginning itself. Allison and Scott instant shut up. But Styles asked with a curious expression, What if they had told you earlier? Max smiled and said, I would have punched his face. After hearing this, Scott's face was twitching. Allison was giggling watching this. Styles then said, Man, there was no way out of this, is there? Max winked and said, Nope. But just so you know, I got to know about both of you long ago. Allison asked, Then why did you feign ignored like a idiot? Why else do you think? Just to have fun while I can. Max said with a smile. And again turned serious and said to everyone, Now you could be considered as a bit knowledgeable, so I'm telling this to all three of you. You're all weak right now, especially you Styles. In the future there'll be more dangers, and all you'll be able to do is run with you little bit of luck. Sooner or later you'll be caught, so I suggest you better get stronger. He turned to Allison and Scott and said, Allison, from tomorrow you'll join me in the run, don't be late. I'll talk to Dad about this. And you McCall, you train with Derek. I know he's been teaching you some little things, but that won't be enough. First tell him to teach you how to hide your werewolf aura. How do you think I got to know about you being a werewolf? When we were playing lacrosse I felt it as soon as I was near you. If I can know it, by my guess Gerard will be able to know it as soon as he's near you. Scott shivered thinking about Gerard and his means. He decided to learn to hide first. Max removed his ankle weights and wrist weights and threw it to Styles and said, Put this on, I'll give you a month's time to get adjusted to its weight. Keep it on you 24/7. But if you want to stay home and be a normal teenager, forget about everything happened here and stay away from all three of us. A skinny kid like you with a baseball bat isn't going to change anything. If you manage to get yourself adjust to that weight, I might consider training you. He watched all three of them taking in the message and said after a minute, So I think that's about it for today. Allison, time to go. He said this and started walking towards the door. Allison watched him leave and kissed Scott and was about to say goodbye when they heard Max say from distance, Just because I know that you're dating, don't you guys get too comfy around me. And Scott, if dare hurt my sister, nails will the least of your worries. Scott shuddered remembering the painful night. Allison just laughed at this. And walked out. Chapter 15 Peter's plot. When Max and Allison were nearing their home, Max always felt like he had forgotten something, but still couldn't remember what it was. The cab stopped, As they both made their way to their home, Max's eyes were twitching watching the broken door. Now he remembered that he broke the door when running out in a hurry towards school. He thought about joining his father in tonight patrol and turned around and was about to run, but he heard Victoria shouting, "Maxwell Argent, stay right there." He gulped and slowly turned around to see Victoria's face, which was like the devil for him. He said with a stiff smiled face, "Hello, Mom." Allison in the side was chuckling watching this. She won't get to see Max embarrassed often, but when stuff like this happens she enjoy it. Victoria started questioning, "Where were you all this time? And don't you think you better explain yourself for breaking the door? And what's with that stupid smile on your face? And don't think about making any of your shitty excuses like study group of something." Max dropped his smile and said with a serious-looking face, "Mom, to tell the truth, the exams are getting closer. And you know that studying with everyone is better than holding up in the room and just staring at the books and not able to ask any doubts we have. That's why I thought it was better to study with my friends. If you don't trust me, you can ask Allison or you can call and check with Scott and Styles." Allison was impressed by how easily Max was able to come up with a story like this. Allison was about to speak up to support him, when she heard her mom say with a smiling face, "It's okay, I don't need to check with them." Allison stopped what she was about to say. Max was very happy with how smart he was and how easily he was able to get away. So he continued to talk about the door. "Mom, about the door, the thing is, you know, the door was getting old, so I was testing how it holds if somebody tried to slam through it to check the integrity. But who knew that the door was so weak that it shattered? I think it's good that I broke it, else who knows when some thief would have broken in." Allison was holding in her laughter when Max said all these. Victoria, hearing this, said with a smile, "Oh, then it's good that you broke it." Max was ecstatic hearing this, but his happiness didn't last long as he heard Victoria saying, "As the door is broken, you'll do a good job buying a new door and fixing it, with your own money." Max wanted to say something else, but he heard Victoria again, "As for your study group, I don't mind it, that is as long as one of you at least show your bags or any book that you've taken notes." Max started sweating hearing this. He knew if he says something it'll only make it worse, so he was staring at his feet, didn't dare to look at Victoria. Allison was sighing with relief that she didn't support him about the study group, so she decided to speak up now. "Mom, actually there was no study group." As soon as this came out, Max felt like his entire world collapse. He glared at Allison with look that was saying, "How could you do this to me?" Allison and Victoria ignored him. As Allison continued, "You know there was a party, right? The thing is, Max liked a girl in school and she was at the party, so Lydia sent him a text saying that she was at party. That way Max came in a hurry to Lydia's house." Hearing this, Max sighed with relief. While Victoria thought about it and showed him a look of pity, she knew what had happened to him when he was young. Since that day he never tried to make any new friends. Now hearing that he liked a girl made her a bit relieved. So she said, "Okay, get in." When they both were heading upstairs, they heard Victoria say, "Fix this door by tomorrow night. And don't even think about asking your father for money, I took away all his cards." Max sighed and moved inside his room and started to meditate. Allison just laughed and went to take a shower before sleep. In the school, after a while, Peter stopped screaming as the healing kicked in. He took his arm, which was thrown at the side, and went out. He directly went to the side of the school sign in front of the school and saw the circular cryptic symbol. He used his claws to rotate it as a passage was formed by its side. He walked in without hesitation. As he saw rows and rows of jars with dried up herbs. He went to a jar in the corner end of the shelf and opened and took some blue-colored powder and applied near his crotch and to the arm that was sliced off and reattached his arm. He could see that it was healing at visible speed. But he felt like both his injuries were burning like fire. He kept on growling and said with bloodshot deep red eyes, "You'll pay for this, Argent." It took nearly half an hour to heal it fully, but he couldn't get up. He was too tired. Today alone he took too much pain than he could endure. He remembered what Max said to him about Kate coming to town in 2 days. He didn't know if he could trust him or not, so he decided on another plan. He went deep inside the room and faced a vault. He hesitated at first, but he made a firm decision and opened it. There were few dynamite sticks, a stack of Bond Party, looked to be worth more than 100 million, and a couple of cell phones on the side. He took few of those bond papers and one of the phone, and dialed a number. He held his phone in his ears listening carefully to it. After hearing it ring thrice he immediately hung up. He was holding the phone and waiting. Soon their phone rang and he picked it up. He heard a blank monotonous voice from the other side. "Friendly cleaning services, how may we assist you?" Peter, after carefully choosing his words, he said, "I would require your help with a rodent problem." The voice from the phone said, "When and where would you require our services, sir?" Peter thought about it and said, "Interested party will be coming to Beacon Hills in 2 days. I would require the assistance of a team of 5. I'll just be observant as I'm not intending to take any action." The person from the phone said, "Sir, we require identification." Peter was pissed off. He shouted, "Her name is Kate. Kate Argent. She'll be coming to town in 2 days. Look her up. She's very notable. I'm putting up 5 million on her, but I want her crippled, not dead, crippled." The voice from the phone still remained the same, "Sir, calm yourself. We got everything that we need. Is there anything else, sir?" Peter, hearing this, calmed down and said, "If there are other pests by the side, I'd require your assistance in cleaning them up. I'll be sure to take care of the extra costs." The voice in phone said, "Thank you, sir. We'll take care of the job perfectly. May you have a great day, sir." Peter replied calmly, "Thank you for the service." As he hung up the call he said, "Assholes. One of these days you'll get yourselves killed and I'll make sure that I'll be there to watch it." After getting dressed he kept the phone with him as he was muttering, "If that kid is planning something I'll be at a safe distance. Damn him. Making an alpha like me to ask for help from someone else. You'll pay for it, kid, you'll pay for it dearly." Peter slowly made his out of his vault and decided to head to the hospital to rest there. Chapter 16. The mystery. Scott and Styles, who were watching as Allison and Max left, planned to rest. Styles, who was sitting, remembered that Max had left him his ankle and wrist weights. "Think about them." He tried to check it out. Styles turned to Scott and pointed to the weights and said, "Buddy, help me put them on. I want to see what these little weight can do." Scott went near the weights and picked them up, but as soon as he picked them, he frowned. He could feel it. Those weights were individually around 20 to 30 pounds. Altogether he felt it would be around nearly 100 pounds or more. He didn't say anything to Styles. He just put them onto his ankles first and told him not to move. But as soon as he put on the wrist weight to Styles's right hand, Styles felt his right hand move downwards instantly. Styles wanted to stop Scott from putting the weight on the other hand by swinging, only to be caught by Scott. Scott told Styles while putting on the weight, "Styles, this is for your own good. Try not to move." Styles retorted him, "After putting that on, I won't be able to move even if I want to. Come on, Scott, take them off. I'm not able to stand it." Scott simply said, "You saw in wearing this and moving around normally, don't you think you can do it? Besides, if a situation goes wrong, I can't promise that I'll be always around to save your butt." Styles, who was unable to stand it, just laid on the floor and started thinking. Max was strong enough to take down an alpha wearing this, so if he was free he could have been even stronger. That means if I'm able to get trained as much as him, in the coming days I'll be about to enhance my body to a better condition and also my performance in lacrosse. Oh, my, and Lydia might even notice me. As Styles was thinking about this he was unconsciously smiling. Scott saw this and asked, "What are you smiling about?" Styles immediately recovered and said, "Oh, nothing. But this weight, man, I feel like carrying another me." He slowly stood up and said, "Man, you gotta drive me home. If I keep my foot on the accelerator I don't think I'll be able to take it off." Scott didn't mind and decided to drive Styles's Jeep. Styles slowly made his way to his seat and sat down. He said, "I think it'll take some time to get used to it, but I'll be able to do it in a month or 2. Scott replied, "Well, you better make it in a month. And I think it's a good chance if he really trains you, unlike Derek, who just keeps beating me while fighting and tells me to focus." Scott and Styles chatted as Scott drove towards Styles's house. Chris came back from patrol around midnight only to see his wife waiting for him in the living room. He went to her and held her from the back and said, "Aren't you planning to sleep, dear?" Victoria just replied, "I need to tell you something about Max. That's why I was waiting." Chris remembered how his wife was shouting before he went off to patrol, so he started sweating hearing that. He carefully asked, "What did he do now?" Victoria didn't notice him and just said, "He's slowly becoming normal nowadays." Chris frowned and said, "He was always normal, right? Has something changed?" Victoria shook her head and said, "I meant like a normal high school teenager. Going to parties, trying out for sports. And I even heard her likes a girl." Chris had a happy smile hearing this. He said, "Isn't that a good thing? Change isn't always bad. Just like now, if he goes back to being like before his friend died, it's happy news for us." Victoria asked, "You mean that Selena girl's death? Who else did he consider as a friend in all these years?" Chris replied. Victoria said, "It's a pity. She was such a lively girl. That gas leak that day not only took her and her family's lives, I think it also took away a part of Max. It's a pity they only found her parents' body." Chris said with a sad face, "You know, if she was close to the blast zone, her entire body might have shattered into bits." Chris sighed thinking about that day. But he knew that he couldn't stop these kinds of accidents. Victoria asked him, "Did he ever talk to you about Selena after that day?" Chris said with a dejected face, "Even though we may seem very close to each other, he never did talk to me about her. I tried asking him many times, he just ignored those questions and just asked me to train him more." Chris paused for a second and continued, "But if he's changing back, I think it's good. I don't want to see him as a loner every day. I think he might be moving on. I mean, it's been around 10 years now. I don't think anyone would remember something that happened a decade ago. Let's see." Chris sighed and continued with a smile, "Oh, you said he liked a girl in school. You know anything about her?" Victoria shook her head and said, "I forgot to ask him. I think I'll get an answer from him tomorrow." Chris laughed and said, "Don't worry. I'll talk to him. This is part of father and son talk. You don't put your nose into this." She smiled after hearing this and said, "You both are always like this. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you. Try not to give him any money tomorrow. I told him to get a new door with his own money." Chris smiled at Victoria and said, "You know he already owns hundreds of thousands in his account. It doesn't matter if I give him money or not." Victoria smirked and said, "I took away his card after he left in the evening." "Oh, I'm keeping all your credit cards too, for temporary, safe keeping. You'll get it back at tomorrow night." Chris started at hay for a second and sighed and said, "Whatever you say. But try not to give him a tough time." Chris was already tired, but after watching the broken door, he moved a cupboard in front of it and they both decided to sleep it off. Max in his room heard their conversation and muttered, "Me forgetting that day is close to impossible, Dad. The only reason I'm strong is because of her. Soon, very soon, both Kate and Gerard will die an agonizing death." Saying till this, he clenched his fist and said in his heart, "Soon, Selena, our years of hard work will pay off. Just wait for a little bit." Chapter 17. She's here. The night went on calmly for everyone. Early in the morning around 4 o'clock, Max planned wake Allison up, but to his surprise she was already up and ready for the run. Max and Allison started to jog slowly, as Max led her to his usual training place in the forest. By the time they reached there, Allison was already out of breath and was panting furiously. Max let her rest for half a minute. Then he decided to warm up exercises with her. Allison was already tired by the time they finished warming up. Then Max put the 10-pound ankle weight on each of her legs and told her to run 10 meters back and forth for 30 times. And Max decided to go a further distance away from her and started doing his exercises. He started doing side steps to practice his new technique of making a mirage of himself. He practiced for nearly 15 minutes just to get an apparition just like himself that lasted only a few seconds before disappeared. He was muttering to himself, "It doesn't seem like I'm making much progress since the school started. I need to find a way to make time. Okay, let's check on her now. She might be finished." When he went back to check on Allison, he saw her passed out and laid on the ground unconsciously. He went to her and woke her up with some water. And asked, "Are you all right, Allie?" Allison was a bit downcast after waking up. "Yeah. But I only made it to 22nd lap before passing out." She was disappointed in herself not being able to finish the 30 laps. But Max ignored her expression and said, "I only did that to check where your strength and stamina stands. Now that I know where you stand, I'll be able to assign you the right amount of exercises to break your limits slowly." Then Max taught her to meditate. She wasn't able to get the hang of it at first, but after nearly an hour she was able to meditate calmly without any other thoughts. Max was impressed with her. After she recovered her stamina they were ready to leave. Max wanted her to take off the weights, but she insisted that she'll be able to get used to the weight if it was on her always. Max still tried to persuade her by saying, "You know, you passed out while running with that weight." She immediately retorted saying, "I know, that time I was running, now we'll be just slowly jogging. Besides, after practicing your meditation I kinda feel a bit changed. I don't know if it's just my imagination, but it kinda feels different and a bit energetic." Max hearing this didn't say anything, only slowly nodded. Today Max reached home pretty late than usual, all because of Allison. Chris was watching them with curious look. Max told him that he'll be training with Allison, and told Chris that this way he'll be able to watch over her. They both freshened up soon and decided to leave for school. In school nobody noticed Allison was walking a bit different except for Lydia. She asked, "What's wrong with you? Why are you walking like that?" Allison immediately shushed her and said, "I'm working on a new exercise to keep me fit. Although it's kinda hard at first, I'll get used to it soon." Lydia didn't think much and said, "If it really works, hook me up with that." Allison replied, "Okay, deal." The whole day went without any problem, except for Styles who was walking around with so much difficulty. Nobody could notice him wearing weights because he was covering it with his jacket and pants. Jackson once glacked at him and mockingly said, "What happened, Styles? You seem like you've turned into a turtle." Usually Styles would have said something sarcastic, but to everyone's surprise he just glared at Jackson and slowly went away. It's not that he didn't want to say anything, but it's just that he was focusing on the weights in his body. The whole day went as usual, except for Styles getting mocked here and there. Max watching this didn't say anything much. Scott often helped Styles with something. At the end of the day when Max and Allison reached home there was a new car Mercedes E550 Cabriolet was waiting for him. He immediately ran inside to check with his dad. Max asked, "Dad, I thought you'll get me a bike." Chris just smiled at him and said, "I think this is comfortable for both of you to go to school. And with this you won't be asking me for another car in the future." Max was pretty happy hearing this and decided to take the car for a spin. He went to his room and took some money under his bed and ran off to his car. He was driving in the direction out of town. On his way he found a carpenter and paid him and gave him his address as told him to fix the door. He returned home rather late that night. And without waking up anyone, he went to sleep. The next day was pretty usual for everyone except for Allison and Max's friends. In the evening Max threw the bag in his car and gave the keys to Allison and told her to get home. After seeing this Lydia immediately tagged along with Allison and said, "I'll be taking her to my home, we got some stuff to discuss. You can run along now." Max just ignored them and walked away. He knew today was going to be an eventful day, as Kate was coming to town. After reaching a certain distance from school, he started running around extremely fast looking for Peter. He knew Peter might have already planned for something, but Max had his own plans. He didn't want Peter to kill her. He had his own plans for Kate. When it was around 7 in the night, Max found Peter on top of a building beside the highway. He was standing there waiting. Max fully concealed his breath and silently came behind Peter and stood nearly 20 meters away from him. Peter didn't notice that Max was standing behind him. He was fully focused on the highway as if waiting for something or someone. As they were waiting, they heard a car running through the highway at around 100 miles per hour. Peter immediately took his phone and called someone and said, "She's coming your way. Don't miss." A cold voice from the other side came, "Affirmative." Max slowly made his way and stood beside Peter and said, "She's here." Chapter 18 The deal won. When Peter suddenly a voice beside him, he was startled and swung his arms, which Max dodged easily and stood there with a calm face. He stared at Peter and said, "This is a nice way to greet someone who's helping you, Peter. Keep this up then I might greet you like this next time." Peter saw Max and frowned and said, "What do you want, Argent?" Max smiled at him and said, "Not scared, are we? Should I break one of your arms to let you remember what happened couple days ago?" Peter just stood there with the same frown and said, "I know you're not gonna kill me. If you wanted to kill me you would have done so in school that night instead of breaking my arm. So either tell me what you want now or go away." Max just smiled at him and said, "You're smart, Peter. I like working with smart people. I'll offer you a deal which you cannot resist, Peter." Peter, hearing this, suddenly started to think if all these were some kind of ploy, but then he realized that Max won't kill him, and he had nothing else to lose, so he replied, "I'll listen, but whatever you say I won't change my mind about killing Kate. I know she's your aunt, Argent. But she has to die." Max knew if he doesn't bring up anything substantial he won't be able to use Peter for his plan. So he decided slowly lure him into his trap. "You remember Talia, don't you?" "Talia Hale." Peter's frown started to deepen as soon as he heard this. But he still asked, "Talia is dead. And don't act like you know her. When she died you were just a child. So whatever you have to say, just say it." Max knew dragging will only agitate Peter more and more, so he decided to get right to it. "Okay, I'll tell you a story that happened years ago. You know how Talia was good with memory manipulation, right? The thing is, Talia had a premonition that something bad might happen to her family, so she decided to save some of the young ones in the family and erased everyone's memory of their existence." Hearing till now, Peter's entire body was shaking. He knew that Talia was the cautious kind of person, and by hearing what Max has said till now he could guess that there might be other descendants of the Hale family. If what he's hearing now is true, he can make his own pack and be the alpha. He wouldn't have to run behind some high school kid. So he decided to get more information. He smiled and said, "So if they're truly alive, how come there never been a werewolf sighted in Beacon Hills other than Derek before?" "Little Argent, this information is worth close to nil. I don't think you can save your aunt with this." Max knew that Peter wanted to dig for more information, and he also knew that Peter took the bait, so he said, "First, you need to know that I'm not trying to save Kate. Second is, the information I know is limited, which is useless to others but not to you, because the information is about your own daughter." He smiled after saying this. Peter's entire body shook as soon as he heard this. He didn't know whether to trust Max's words or not, but if there is a fraction of a chance that it's true, then he's willing to take it. So he stared at Max with deep red eyes and was thinking of attacking him and got the information out of Max. But before he could do that, Max said with a calm expression, "I know what you're thinking. But you should know that if we fought head-on, you'll be on the losing side. I don't mind going a round or two, but currently we don't have the time, do we?" Peter, hearing this, calmed down, and asked him, "What do you want, Argent?" Max was just waiting to hear this, so he said, "I don't want you to kill Kate. I want..." Peter growled at him and said, "Kate will die, no matter what. Don't you think that you can stop me?" Max just said, "You wolves and your temper. Listen, I have a better plan. This one will make you and me both happy. If you follow through it, I'll tell you where your daughter is." Peter, hearing this, got curious and asked, "So what do you have in mind?" Max went closer to him and whispered something in Peter's ear. After hearing the entire thing, Peter burst out in laughing, "Ha ha 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 ha. You deserve your name, Argent. You're more devious than that Gerard. I'll do it." Peter paused and looked at Max and asked, "Are you gonna tell me why you're doing this?" Max said with a blank face, "I have my reasons. And it's none of your business." Peter knew he couldn't get any info from this little devil, so he decided to move to the location where Kate is to be intercepted. "Let's go." They should have blocked her ahead. Kate was on her way to Beacon Hills after a long time. She was kinda happy to be able to meet her brother Chris, and she also liked her niece Allison. As soon as she thought about her niece, she remembered her cold nephew Max. She still gets the chills whenever she was around him. But she knew all this was because of the one incident over a decade ago. She still regretted thinking about that day. She didn't regret killing those werewolves, she just regretted bringing Max with her. That day when they planned to kill Selena and her family. But what's done is done. She knew that he can't kill her directly, and she thought about it and found that there aren't many people who are willing to help Max deal with her. So she decided to deal with the situation as it comes. She started speeding up the car and headed to the town. When she was about to hit the speed of 130 miles per hour, suddenly something exploded from the bottom of her car, flipping it over. Chapter 19. The deal. 2. As the car flipped over, Kate was bruised up a bit, but she wasn't hurt much because of the airbag. All these years of experience made her calm down and analyze the situation. She saw 4 guys holding assault rifles shooting at her car from 4 directions and slowly moving towards her. She knew they were professionals, but she wasn't worried. All these years she had encountered multiple ambushes, and she still was able to live through it. Watching them coming towards her, she slowly moved towards the back seat and took the shotgun that was there. She wanted to wait for them to come closer so that she'll be able to get a better shot. She also knew that the longer she's inside the car the more dangerous it'll get. When all four of them were around 10 meters away from her, she moved lightning fast and shot several rounds towards the head of the guy who was coming from the back of the car. As soon as the mercenaries heard the gunshot and saw that one of their guys' head was blown to bits, they retreated and decided to take cover. Kate made it to the trunk space and took out an SMG and kept a Desert Eagle on the side. Kate knew the only person in this town that wants her dead is Max, so she shouted out, "Max! You're sending me gifts as soon as I enter the town. Oh, Max, I didn't know you loved your sweet aunt this much." She waited a few seconds, but no reply came, so she thought that Max might be observing from a distance. So she yelled again, "But this won't be enough for your Aunt Kate here. You know I'm such a greedy bitch, next time send a lot more." After that she took out a breathing apparatus and put it on and threw a few smoke grenades around all her sides covering the entire road in almost dense fog. She came out of the car and stood at the place where the first guy had died. And decided to move from here. She could see a guy who was hiding to the left of her car and was firing at her car. She put on the silencer for the Desert Eagle and shot him right in his temple. As the remaining two didn't hear the third guy in their radio, they knew that he was also dead. They didn't even feel pity towards him, as they knew that in this line of work they could die every day. So they stopped shooting and moved to the abandoned building that was on the side of the road. Kate, as an experienced hunter, knew the moment they stopped firing they decided to retreat. She also knew that the other two were hiding to the right of the car, as they couldn't hide in the middle of the road. Then she saw an old abandoned building that was beside their supposed hiding spot, and decided to follow in. Peter and Max, who was watching as Kate took out two of the mercenaries with ease. Peter frowned and took out his phone and called the number he had received from the mercenaries. The phone connected and the voice from the other side came, "What is it, sir?" Peter yelled at him, "I asked for 5 people, you only sent 4 and now the 2 of them are dead. Don't come looking for me if they all end up dead." The voice replied, "Sir, it is all according to plan." Peter doubted it for a second, but still said, "If you can't kill her, just sedate her. I'll take care of it from there." The voice asked, "Sir, do you want us to cripple her or sedate her?" Peter yelled at him, "Just sedate her." The voice said, "Much obliged. She'll be sedated in 2 minutes." Peter had a weird expression and saw 2 of the mercenaries move inside the building they were standing. Soon after Kate followed them in, there were sounds of shooting for a few seconds. And soon they all stopped. Kate, who went in, saw 2 of the mercenaries at the other side pointing at her. One of them said, "Drop it. I won't ask again." Kate slowly put down her SMG and the Desert Eagle and said, "Max, do you still want to play with your aunt? Aren't you gonna come out now that I've put down my guns?" The guy on the other side just yelled, "Shut up, bitch. Now put your hands behind your head." Kate put both of her hands behind her head. Watching this, the guy from the other side nodded to the second guy. The second day slowly searched for something in his jacket and took out a syringe. Kate, who had her hands behind her head, slowly took out 2 similar-looking knives from both sides of the collar, and when the guy took the syringe out, Kate in a swift motion threw both the knives at them. Both the mercenaries saw that Kate threw something, but before they could do anything those 2 knives went through their eyes. They both fell dead. Kate watched them and took her guns back and checked them. Confirming that they both were dead, she went out of the building with a relaxed face. She knew that if Max was here he wouldn't risk attacking her after watching this. But she didn't know that Max was far more powerful than she would have imagined, as she'll find out about that in future. When she came out she only felt something pierce the side of her neck before she fell unconscious. Peter and Max watched as Kate fell unconscious after coming out of the building. At this time Peter received a message, plus task completed. Require payment. Account XXXXXXXXXX. Time left 23:59 plus. Peter knew that it was their work, so he decided pay them later as he still had 24 hours time. Max closed his eyes and sensed for any key signatures nearby, only to find a key signature 200 meters away from them. He knew that this guy is the one who took a shot at Kate. He chose to ignore him and decided to get to Kate. Max, after reaching there, said, "Peter, it's time to get to work." Peter didn't move and slowly turned to Max and asked, "First you tell me where my daughter is." Max said, "I'll tell you, but first you hold your part of the deal, then the information." Peter growled and asked, "Either you tell me now or I'll kill her or run away from here. You won't be able to protect yourself and hold me down." Max, hearing this, looked at Peter with calm expression and said, "The thing is, I don't know the actual location of your daughter, but—" Peter, hearing the first sentence, suddenly interrupted him by growling and turned into a 3-meter werewolf and stared at Max and asked, "You dare play me, Argent? Do you know who I am? I'm the Alpha, and you dare play me?" He roared and lunged at Max without giving him any time to explain. He was trying to bite off anywhere he can. But Max was a bit faster than him and dodged to the side while slicing at Peter's right arm. Peter was screaming and attacked again, planning to slam his body at Max. Watching this, Max immediately punched at the closing figure's chest. The moment Max punched Peter's chest, Peter's left hand sliced at Max's shoulder. They both separated and took 2 steps back. Peter coughed up blood and was flabbergasted with this result. All these days Peter believed that Max was relying on tricks by moving faster and attacking his weakness to beat him. But now he understood that it was all a facade to hide his strength. Peter soon recovered from the shock and turned back to human form and looked at the frowning Max. Max was quite a bit disappointed with this result. He thought that he had grown stronger, but it was only as strong as Peter. Then he concentrated some of his charka and ki on the wound on his shoulder. Peter was watching him, could easily see how Max's injury healed at visible speed. Then he started laughing. "Ha ha 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 ha. No wonder you're strong. You're no human. You're like us, but something special. Ha 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 ha." Max didn't say anything and just healed. Peter, watching this, said with a smile, "How would the Argents would react if they hear that they have a supernatural in their midst, Max?" Max simply said, "It's your word against mine. And I think you won't get a chance to talk to them. Either you'll be killing them or they'll be killing you. That's the only result." Max paused and continued, "About your daughter, you need to find the desert wolf, Corinne. I reckon you know her. After all, she's the mother of your daughter. And the only one who could know about your daughter." Peter was processing the info in his mind as he heard, "Peter, it's your turn now," Max said with a serious expression. Peter knew that if they continued he'll be on the losing end because he didn't know what other secrets this Argent kid has, so he quickly turned into the monstrous 3-meter-tall werewolf and ran to Kate and bit her shoulder. Max, watching this, muttered to himself, "Now I'll be able to hunt you out in the open, Kate. I'll see what anyone can do when I burn you alive later." Chapter 21st Lesson. Mountain Ash. Max and Peter stood there after Peter bit Kate. Peter still wanted to kill her, but he decided to let Max handle this. He knows that Kate will die sooner or later, but I wanted to kill Get himself, but he resisted the urge today and let Max handle it. Max was still healing his wound on his shoulder, because he knew that if a alpha scratch can turn you into a werewolf. So he was also removing the foreign energy left on the wound. After a couple of minutes he was able to sense that there was no external influence on the wound, so he let the wound head naturally. After a while, seeing that everything went well, Max decided that it was about time he got back home, or else Chris would suspect him. Max turned to Peter and said, "If you want to look for your daughter, you better leave this all behind and go. The minute you find your daughter, you'll have a weakness and many people can easily manipulate you." He chuckled saying this. Peter thought about it for a second and said, "What I do is my business, Argent. You don't get in my way." Max replied, "You go a rampage in this town and I'll put you down myself." Peter snorted at him and went away. Max, watching Peter leaving, took Kate and laid her near the car and ran off. By the time he reached home it was already midnight. He sneaked into his room and slowly slept. Chris in his room couldn't sleep as he was trying to call Kate to check on her. But no matter how many times he called, Kate wasn't picking up. Kate, who was laying in the road, slowly opened her eyes. She felt refreshed and a bit stronger. She didn't know that she had got bitten yet, as her bite mark was healed. But Kate felt that there was something different and she couldn't put her finger on it. She reached inside her car and took out her phone and saw 20 to 30 missed calls from Chris. When she was about to call him, Get phone rang. She received the call, and heard Chris from other end, "Where are you? And why are you late?" Kate just replied, "Someone tried to ambush me. I got them all. Think you can give me a ride? Chris on the phone hearing this frowned and asked, where are you right now? Kate said, I just entered Beacon Hills. Come straight towards to the south entrance. You won't miss me. Then hung up the call. Chris on the other end called his patrol team as they needed help cleaning up the bodies. After 5 minutes he left the house and joined with his team and went towards Kate's location. When they reached Kate's location, they saw Kate sitting in the middle of the road and her car flipped in the side riddled with bullet holes. But when that saw Kate without even a scratch, they were surprised. Chris asked, you all right? Kate replied, well, if it isn't my sweet brother. Chris asked about the situation and how it happened. Kate told him everything except for the part that she was knocked out for hours. Chris told his team to clean up the mess. When they cleaned up everything as well rest to move, it was already morning. Max and Allison woke up early to do their exercise. As soon as they both were out of the house, Max took a sack of mountain ash and spread it around the house. Allison watching this asked curiously, why are you spreading that ash around the house? Max replied, this is lesson number 1 for you. This stuff is called mountain ash. No supernatural being could cross this, including your wolfy boyfriend. Allison watching this muttered, can't you just call him by name, you know? Max just ignored her and made a circle around the house. And they both went to do their training. A while after they left, Chris brought Kate in his car and parked in front of the house. They both came out. Chris went to the door and opened it only to see Kate standing 5 meters away from the door, and from the looks of it she didn't seem to intend to come forward. Chris asked, what are you waiting for, Kate? Move along, I think you could use some rest. Kate just replied, I don't think I can come. Kate just now realized what had changed. That asshole who knocked me out might be the reason for me to become a werewolf. Kate knew if word gets out she'll have to be killed according to the hunter's code. So she decided to hide it. She told him, just give me the keys, I just remembered something important that I left in my car. I need to get it back. Chris frowned hearing this. He knew something was wrong, so he held his keys in his hands and said, here you go. But he didn't move. He wanted to see if she'll reach out. It not. Just as he expected, she didn't reach out. She just stood there glaring at him saying, so you noticed her brother? Chris immediately knew that Kate was a werewolf. So he said with a sad expression, what happened to you, Kate? How? When? As he was saying, his right hand was slowly inching towards his gun. Kate instantly felt it and pointed her gun at him faster than ever before and said, don't even try it, brother. I know you won't kill me, even if I'm like this. Chris listening to this paused and didn't try it against. Noticing this, Kate said, now to answer your questions. I think I was bit last night. Probably your son might have had a hand in this. I mean, he's the only one in this town hates me enough to do this. Chris started to frown hearing this. He said, why would he even wanna do that? Even if he hates you, I don't think he'd do this because of a little hatred. Kate looking at had brother's confused expression, knew that Max didn't tell them about Selena's family's dead and his hatred with Gerard and her. So she just smiled and said, I think you should ask him yourself that. He needed a proper reason to kill me off legally without arising internal conflict. Looks like he found one. I'll be leaving now, Chris, so either you give me the keys or let me run through the woods. Chris knew there was something they were all hiding, but he decided to ask Max, so he threw the key and said to Kate, I'll give you 1 day before spreading the message. But if I found out that you tried any moves on my kids, I'll be personally coming to hunt you down. Kate just ignored him and took his car and drove off. Watching this, Chris was still frowning. In morning around 7 o'clock, Max and Allison made their way back to home. He saw Chris sitting in the living room frowning, so he said, what's up, Dad? Something wrong? Chris directly ignored his questions and said, we need to talk about you and your relationship with Kate. And I want to confirm something. And he turned to Allison and said, Allison, go to your room and get ready. You're gonna be late for school. Allison hearing this knew they were gonna talk about werewolves, so Chris wants her to go to her room. Thinking that she also knew about the stuff happening around town, she said, if you're gonna talk about werewolves, I think you can discuss it here. I'll also listen. Don't try to keep me in the dark and say that it's for my safety. Chris was shocked hearing this. He turned to Max and Max nodded at him. So he sighed and decided to call Victoria and have a family meeting now. Chapter 21 Family Meeting. Victoria came from the kitchen hearing the commotion. She saw everyone waiting for her. When she reached there, Chris said to her, "Allison knows." Hearing this and looking at his serious expression, she knew what he was talking about. So she asked, "How did she find out?" "She isn't supposed to know now." At this time Max said, "I told her. She deserves to know. You've seen the recent Alpha attacks. If there was no early preparations, she could be the one that got attacked next. And Kate was also coming here, so I decided to tell her." Victoria was about to say something, but Chris asked him first, "What's your prejudice against Kate?" "I mean, I know that they have a bad reputation in Hunter's circle. But that doesn't mean that you have to hate her that much, hate her so much that you managed to turn her into." Chris didn't fish but was agitated too much that he started to gasp for air harder and harder. Max knew that Chris must have met her after she was turned. So he said, "Yes, I do hate her. I hate her so much that I'm willing to do anything to kill her. If you know what she had done that day, you wouldn't be defending her like this." As he was saying this, his eyes started to get bloodshot. Chris instantly knew that Kate must have done something to him in the past for him to hate her so much, so he calmed down a bit and asked, "Okay. I think it's about time you tell us what happened between Kate and you." Max knew that he had no choice but to tell him about that night. So he soon paced himself and stared to talk. "You remember my friend Selena, right? It all happened that day." He recounted the entire story about how they killed her parents, and how they made him stab Selena. He told them about everything except for the fact that Selena was alive. He made sure that no one else knew her being alive other than him, Selena, and the doctor. He left the doctor alive because he saved her and was taking care of her in secret all these years. When he finished, he was already tearful. And he told them that if he legally wants to kill them with his own hands, then there was only two options. One was to get evidence for their crime, the other was to turn them into werewolves and hunt them down like dogs. Chris also don't know what to do. One side was his father and sister and the other side was his son. Still, he decided that he'll be more supportive of his son if they both faced each other. Allison already knew about this but still couldn't help but tear up every time she hears about Selena's fate. Victoria, on the other hand, was fuming with rage. She slammed the table and asked Chris, "Where is she, Chris? Tell me, where the hell is she? Don't even think about hiding her. After all that they both did, Max, I don't think I will be able to stop myself from killing them." Can you imagine going through something like that when you were 5 or 6-year-old? Chris also didn't know that things would turn out this way, but he really didn't know where Kate was going. Victoria, noticing that Chris wasn't talking, she shouted at him, "If you truly consider him our son, as parents the least we could do is to help him out, stay out of his way. Christopher, make your choice right now." Chris knew that he should do something immediately or he might even lose his family, so he said, "I don't think he'll be of much help. But I can tell you 3 things. Right now Kate is headed south in my car. I can track me car. And going after Gerard is almost close to impossible. He'll always be surrounded by his old team." Victoria said, "First let's take care of Kate. Later we'll talk about Gerard," and took out a bow from under the table. But Max stopped her, saying, "I started this, I'll finish this. This is my revenge for Selena's family. Please don't say anything more. I'll kill her when the time comes." After saying this, Max stood up and left to his room. Watching Max walking away like this, Chris and Victoria felt waves of guilt hit them for their helplessness. After Max left, the living room fell into silence. Allison also wanted to go to her room, so she silently wanted to slip away. But before she could move, Chris asked her with a stern voice, "Allison, I think it's time we had a talk." Allison knew what they wanted to know, so she said, "Yes." Chris asked her, "How long have you known? And how much do you know about our family? And tell us everything to know about Max, and don't think any hiding anything." Allison was thinking from where to start. Seeing that Allison was silent for a few seconds, Victoria asked her, "We need to know, Allison. After you tell us what you know about everything, me and your dad has been waiting to talk to you about this from a few years, but we still thought that you're young and kept the secrets from you. So I think we all have to come clean here." Allison didn't think much and started to talk. 2 days ago in school, me and my friends were attacked by that Alpha. I can't tell you about my friends, as most of them didn't know what it was, and Max knocked at others before they could see the Alpha. She narrated the course of events that transpired in school except for Scott being a werewolf. Chris started laughing hearing about how the alpha got hit in its crotch. Victoria just glared at Chris for this, but after remembering that the alpha dared to make a move on her family she again took her bow, but Allison stopped her saying, "Mom, that day if Max wanted he could have killed him, but he didn't. So I think Max has a plan. Let's try not to interfere, Mom." Hearing this, Victoria calmed down and put down the bow. Now Chris decided to ask her his doubts. "Okay, that's about it with that alpha in school. Now tell us since when you've known about Selena's family's dead. And don't say that it's right now, because I was watching you when Max was telling it's the story, you were just sad, not surprised." Allison knew she couldn't hide it anymore, so she said, "After the attack that night, when we were coming back home he told me. He didn't say anything extra. He told me about the supernatural creatures and started training me from yesterday." Chris wasn't surprised after hearing this. So he checked the time and said, "I think you better get ready. You might miss the first period if you delay anymore." Allison, thinking in school, ran up to her room to get ready. Chapter 22 Getting Stronger. One Max, who was quietly meditating in his room, he was able to sense every part of his body. Then he realized that he had gotten a bit more stronger than his usual slow progress. Then he started to think for the reason. After pondering for a while, the only thing different he did was using his brute strength to face Peter last night. Now after working out in morning he noticed it now while meditating, but he couldn't confirm his theory. He wanted to test it but remembered that Peter might have left town by now, so he decided to think of alternatives. He thought about it and decided to go for the next best thing, the only two betas left in town, Derek and Scott. After thinking about this he decided to get ready for school. After 15 minutes Max and Allison left to school in Max's new car. After reaching the school Max attended the morning class. During the lunch break Max found Scott eating with Allison, Lydia, Styles and Jackson. Styles was sitting with an uncomfortable look. This was probably due to the extra weights on his body. Max just went to Scott and told him, "McCall, I need to discuss some things with Derek, so this weekend after school you bring Derek to the woods. I'll send you the location later." And turned to Styles and said, "If you want, you can join them too." Jackson was watching them weirdly. He knew they both were up to something and this is related to Derek, or else these two losers won't be better than him in lacrosse. So he planned to follow them later. The whole week passed swiftly without any accidents. Allison trained with Max both morning and evening and made lots of progress. She could be considered a prodigy when it comes to mediation and key training. Soon the weekend came. Max and Allison went to their usual training spot. Max put on the extra set of body weights which he bought and started to warm up. Soon time passed about half an hour and Max saw Styles' Jeep pulling over. And inside were Scott, Styles and Derek. Max asked them with a frown, "Why are you late? You know we're from the same school, right? I came earlier than you." Scott and Derek didn't reply, only Styles replied quickly, "That, Jackson was trying to follow us. So it took some time to lose him." Max nodded. At this time Derek asked with a frown, "Why did you call everyone here, Argent? Are you planning to nail us again?" Max didn't mind Derek's attitude and said, "I called you guys for training here. I've seen that Scott was making progress with you, but it was too slow. So I decided to take it up a notch. And I called you here today so that you and Scott could spar with me." Scott and Styles were quite happy about this, but Derek still asked with a frown, "And why should I help you? Last time I remember you nailed both of us in the back." Max smiled and replied, "What if I tell you that I know who the Alpha is and he killed your sister to become the Alpha? Would you be willing then?" Derek, without even thinking, instantly said, "Tell me who it is first. After I confirm it I'll help you." Max just said, "It's your uncle, Peter." As soon as he said this Derek shouted, "That's impossible." Max replied, "Call and check the hospital and try looking at the CCTV footages there. You'll know it instantly." Derek immediately called the hospital and checked. They said that he was discharged today morning. Derek already believed that Max was telling the truth, so asked him, "How do you know it's him?" Max said with a smile, "Actually Derek, I made a deal with Peter, which I'll not tell you what it is. But I'll tell you that currently he might not be in town, and I can assure you that he'll come back soon. At that time I'll help you kill him. Now, shall we start?" Derek thought about it for a moment and asked, Why are you helping me kill him? Replied Max, I have my reasons for Peter's death, and I think it's about time Beacon Hills had an alpha that is not a killer but a predator. So are we gonna get started? Thinking of what Max said, Derek decided that it was for the best, and nodded. Scott was also ready. They both actually wanted to teach Max a lesson for nailing them. At this time Styles interrupted their train of thoughts. What about me? What am I supposed to do? Max suddenly smiled and called out, Allison, your sparring partner is here. Come fast. And turned to Styles and said, you can take off your weights now. We don't want you getting beaten with you at a disadvantage. Styles said with an embarrassed face, I'm not fighting a girl. Allison soon came here. Max saw this and told Styles, okay, I'll leave the decision to you. You can pick any of us to fight. Which one do you choose? Styles was not feeling very indignant coming here. He took off his weights and said, all right, fine, I'll spar with her. Max told Allison to get weights off. Still was watching this and checked the weight. Compared to his weights, Allison's was very light. So he thought this will be easy. But he didn't know that Allison had trained in the meditation Max have her and was but able to sense ki within herself and use it lightly. Max came beside Scott and Derek and waited to watch Allison's training result. At this time Max asked Derek, who do you think will win? Derek said, isn't it obvious? You trained your sister, and Styles only sees her as a harmless girl from his class. So Styles is done for. Scott hearing this wanted to tell Styles to be careful, but was stopped by Max. Scott, Styles need to know this. This could be considered his first lesson. Know your enemy before you fight. This will be an important step for him. So don't bother him now. Scott turned silent hearing this. Then Max said to Derek, impressive perception you have there, Derek. No wonder you were able to live till this day. Derek just snorted and looked at Allison and Styles who were about to fight. They both didn't talk. Styles wanted to be done with it soon and didn't want to talk and make the situation even not awkward. Allison didn't want to talk because she wanted to see her progress after all this time. Soon Styles moved similar to a boxer and punched towards Allison's face. Allison easily blocked it using her elbow to the coming fist which made Styles grunt as the elbow touched his fist. Before he could react he felt his knee being kicked. Styles was off balance for a second. At this moment Allison used a bit of ki in her hands and punched in his gut. Styles fell down slowly. Allison knew Styles didn't train with anyone, but still she was happy that she was able to put him down. Max helped Styles to stand up and asked, you alright, Styles? Styles was mumbling, next time I'm bringing my bat. After he grayed Max he said, yeah, I'm good. Max then told Allison, teach him the basics. Then Max turned to Scott and Derek and said, guys, I guess it's our turn. Chapter 23 Getting Stronger 2 inches. Guys, I guess it's our turn. Hearing this, Scott and Derek turned to their half-wolf form and went towards Max growling. Max kept his weight on his body to make this fight a bit not challenging, and he also went forward and punched towards Derek's face, which Derek barely slipped and clawed towards Max. Max just slapped the claw away towards Scott who was at his left. Scott tired to dodge by leaning to his left only to be kicked in the chest by Max. He stepped back nearly 6 to 7 steps. Derek, who saw his claw miss, kicked with his left leg towards Max's rib cage. Max with his extra weight couldn't move at full speed ahead, got kicked in his ribs, but before Derek was about to take his leg back he got punched in his face by Max. At this moment the three of them separated and looked at each other. Styles and Allison on the other side who were practicing were also watching this. Styles was a bit surprised to see Max taking on both Scott and Derek. He had already heard that Max was strong and attacked them, but seeing him taking on both of them on front of him was quite different from hearing it from someone. Out of everyone's surprised expression, Derek was watching Max with a weird expression. No one could see it, but Derek saw it. He could see that Max was wearing extra weights when fighting them at the same time. Even though it's well hidden in Max's clothes, Derek saw it when they were exchanging punches. So Derek said, Argent, are you trying to disrespect my dignity? Max frowned hearing this and asked, what wrong, Derek? Derek simply said, take it off and fight us. It is one thing fighting us at that same time, I can agree to that because wolves hunt in packs, but it's another thing by wearing weights while fighting. Hearing this, others looked at Max with an even more surprised expression. For this Max just laughed and said, "If I took that off, it won't be a fair fight for you." Derek just shouted, "I don't care. I want to know where I stand. Just do it." Hearing this, Max looked at Derek with a bit more respect than usual, and took off his weights. Derek at this time said to Scott, "Scott, you stay out of this. It's a matter of pride." But Scott was about to say something but stopped after looking at Derek's determined blue glowing eyes. Derek started running towards Max in all for limbs this time, but as soon as he reached Max, before he could even claw at him, he got punched by Max several times faster and heavier than before. And before he was about to take a few steps back, Max kicked his stomach and sent Derek flying a few meters. This fight ended pretty quickly. Scott went to Derek and helped him up. Styles in the other hand went to the place where Max kept good weight and tried to lift it, only to lift it with extreme difficulty. After that he looked at Max as if he was looking at a monster. Styles suspected that Max might be some kind of supernatural creature but was hiding it because he was in Hunter family, so he decided to talk to Scott about it later. And went to Allison to train. Max looked at Derek and said, "Now you know why I'm wearing those weights. If I need to improve, I need to limit myself and process through hardship." After this incident Derek also agreed with him. Max put in his weight and they started to fight again. The fight continued on as Derek moved agilely whenever Max punched him and avoided most strikes, but Scott was a new werewolf so he got hit several times. After a while Max started to give pointers to Scott while fighting. As they continued sparring it soon became dark and everyone was tired. Scott and Styles made great progress today and they were quite happy about that. Max decided that it was about time they left. When they were about to leave Max went towards Styles and gave him a white-colored package. Styles didn't open it immediately. He said, "I'm not selling coke for you, man. I think Derek will do a better job at that." Max laughed at him and said, "This is mountain ash, dumbass. Take it. Only humans can touch it. If you encounter a supernatural creature, throw it around you, it'll protect you." Styles suddenly looked at him with a weird face. Max watching this asked, "What is it? What are you?" Styles asked thinking about the weights Max was wearing. Max understood what he meant and told him, "I'm a human just like you, but went through a whole lot to get here. But if you get used to this weight by the end of the month, I can teach you some tricks to progress stronger just like Allison." When Styles heard this, he was filled with more determination. Max looked at him and said, "Eat more bacon and eggs. If you're this skinny in the future you won't be able to go through the torture. Training I give you." Styles agreed to it, and asked with a curious expression, "How did you get those weights?" "I searched for it online. I couldn't find it anywhere." Max just faintly said, "It's special ordered. If you know certain people who knows certain people, you'll be able to get anything. But I want the weights I gave you next month. It was my old weights. It was supposed to be Allison's but I decided to give it to her a month later." After thinking about that Styles nodded and thanked him and went to his Jeep where Scott and Derek were waiting, and drive off. Max went to his car where Allison was and told her, "Today we had great practice. I think after tonight's meditation we'll know how much we've progressed." Allison nodded and said, "Yes, I could already feel it. I'm way more stronger than the day I started training with you." Max reminded, "Don't be overconfident. There will always be people stronger than you. In our case I could say there will be creatures that will be stronger than us." "Ha ha ha." Max laughed it off saying this. Allison and laughed and said, "Yes, master." Max shouted, "Cut it out with this master and shit." Allison just giggled. At night when meditating in his home Max found out that good theory about fighting to get stronger works, as he could feel himself filled with energy. He texted his training partners saying that they should spar every weekend like this. Scott, Styles and Allison had no trouble so they agreed to it, but Derek replied later. Only if he could stop the hunters from hunting him after he became an alpha. Max instantly agreed to it. So he was also in. Chapter 24 Help. Part 1 Time skip. A month passed by. They continued their training every week as they had agreed before. Styles also slowly got adjusted to his extra weight. And with his changed diet he also gained some muscles here and there. Nobody noticed this except for the training group. Styles had even got a new stalker, Jackson. Jackson was trying to get Styles alone and planned to make him spill all their secrets. But much to his demise, Styles was either hanging around with Scott or Max. So Jackson was like a stalker watching Styles almost all the time. Today Max called Styles and told him to come to school without weights. Styles asked why. Max only said, "This is a break for you before the real training beings. Don't use weights till the weekend. I'll get you something new." Styles was instantly happy and threw all the weights aside in his home. And called Scott. "Where you buddy?" Scott said, "I'm not coming to school today, Styles. I'm looking for a part-time job. There was this ad at this animal clinic for a helper job. I'm going up to check it out. You go ahead. We'll meet up in evening." Styles didn't mind and happily went to school. He felt that his entire body was light as a feather. After he reached school, he saw Max was there and went to him. Jackson, just as always, was watching Styles today. When he saw Styles going with Max, he knew that today also he couldn't do anything to him. After a while Max went towards his class, leaving Styles in the hallway. Today Scott didn't come, so Styles was alone and went towards his locker. Jackson saw this and thought it was his lucky day and ran towards Styles and stood in front of him. Styles, who saw Jackson standing in front of him, frowned and asked, "What do you want, Jackson?" Jackson smiled and hooked his hand around Styles's neck, said, "Now that your buddies aren't here, I think it's about time we had a talk," and pulled him towards the boys' locker room. Early in the morning nobody was here. Styles, who was being dragged, could have stopped Jackson if he wanted, but after thinking about how Jackson was dating his dream girl Lydia, he decided to teach him a lesson and went along with him. After entering the room, Jackson looked at Styles and asked, "So are you gonna tell me what you guys are using, or should I make you?" Styles smiled at him and said, "Why don't you try and make me?" Jackson was pissed off hearing this. He went and punched towards at Styles's face, but Styles caught Jackson's fist and kicked him away and said with a menacing smile, "I wanted to do this from a long time," and moved towards Jackson. After a while Styles came out of the boys' locker room and went to his class, only to find Max starting at him and pointed to the empty seat in front of him. Styles went there and sat. Max looked at Styles's fist and asked, "What were you doing?" Styles didn't tell him the truth. He scratched his head and said, "I was, having fun." Max glared at him and asked, "Why are you lying, Styles?" Styles looked at Max's eyes and knew that if he didn't tell the truth he'd be done for, so he said, "It's not me who's lying, it's Jackson's the one who was lying on floor in boys' locker room." Lydia and Danny, who were sitting on the sides of Styles, were unknowingly listening to this. Hearing about Jackson, Lydia immediately asked him, "What happened to him? And why didn't you help him?" Styles had an annoyed look and said, "Your perfect little boyfriend tried to jump me and took me to the boys' locker room. There he slipped and fell. Why should I help such a dickhead?" Hearing this, Danny and Lydia suddenly ran from the class. Max knew why this happened, so he just ignored it. Jackson, who was laying on the floor with bruised up face, slowly stood up and went towards his face. When he was washing his face, Danny came in running with Lydia and asked, "Man, what happened? I heard from Styles that you slipped and fell on the floor." Jackson, hearing this, also agreed and said without turning his head, "I was about to kick his ass, but I slipped." Danny, seeing that Jackson wasn't turning his head, asked again, "You all right, man?" Jackson, hearing this, was annoyed and shouted, "I'm fine. Okay," and stormed out of the locker room. Danny didn't see his face when he was running out, but Lydia saw it. It was a bruised up face with broken nose and a black eye. She could only think of one thing, that is, Styles did this to Jackson. Even though it sounded impossible to her, that's the only conclusion she can come to. That whole day nobody saw Jackson, some people only heard that he was driving off during the class. Max knew what happened, so he didn't worry about it much. When it was time for the lacrosse practice, coach came to Max and asked, "What happened to my other two star players, Argent?" Max replied, "I don't know, coach. I didn't hear from them since morning." Coach glared at him, "You're the captain, Argent. It's your responsibility to take care of everyone in your team. You better find them soon. We're playing against other schools in Beacon County in 2 months. We need to get some groundwork done." Max faintly said, "Coach, I think you're being paranoid. With our team, I think we can take on any of the other schools easily. And I think Jackson and Scott might be here tomorrow." Coach, hearing this, said, Right. Now, you get back on the field. Don't slack off. Max didn't say anything and went off running. As soon as he left, his phone started vibrating. He was nowhere near to notice that. After finishing his lacrosse practice, Max came back to get changed. When he checked his phone, it nearly had 20 to 30 missed calls, 2 texts. First one said plus north of Georgetown plus, second text only said plus help. Plus Max immediately knew who it was. And he immediately found Allison and told her, "I'm going out. Tell mom and dad that I'll be late today." Allison saw Max's agitated face and asked him, "What happened? Is something wrong?" Max only said, "Nothing. I'm going. Bye." Max went to his car and started driving and called someone in his phone. "Doc, I'm coming with her tonight. Keep the doors open." A kind voice from the other side came, "Been a while, kid. Don't get yourself killed. I'll be here. If you need me, you can call me anytime." Max smiled and replied, "Thanks, Doc. See ya there," and drove off. Chapter 25 Help. Part 2. To the north of the Georgetown, a girl with dark hair with a slim-fit body wearing a black leather jacket to match her hair was surrounded by a group of people with red glowing eyes. She was sitting inside a circle of mountain ash. The group leader, who was wearing a black sunglasses, talked to her. "You are a unique existence. You should know there has never been a supernatural creature that could break the natural law and use the things that was meant to be never touched by us. Join us, Selena. You'll be one of the leaders to conquer supernatural world and will be a main asset against our mortal enemies, the hunters." As soon as she heard the word hunter, Selena's eyes turned red, but as soon as she remembered the one person she loved, she calmed down and stared at him and said, "Deucalion, if I join you, there will be only slaughter in my future. You do whatever you want, but I'll never join you." Deucalion's entire eyes turned red and he replied, "Your existence is a threat to them. They use these supernatural binders as a way to trap us and kill us. Imagine if they were to ever find out that there is a werewolf in existence, the 2M Alpha, that is not confined by the natural laws. What do you think will happen to you then? They will hunt you to the ends of the earth." Deucalion paused and continued, "If you were to join us, all of us will join together and protect you. You'll have a family. You'll be one among us and we'll never turn our back on one of us." Selena growled at him and said, "I'd rather die than join you monsters. I know about you and your alpha pack. You made them kill all of their packs. You remember this, Deucalion, you'll regret that you ever tried to recruit me." Deucalion laughed at her, "Ha ha ha ha. Do you really think that there is someone who can make me regret? Do you really know what I am? I am the alpha of alphas. I am the apex of apex predators. I am death, destroyer of worlds. I am the demon wolf." Deucalion roared when finishing this sentence. Hearing his statement, all the other alphas that surrounded Selena crouched on the floor, but opposite to everyone's reaction, Selena didn't budge. She stared at Deucalion and said, "They might be afraid of you, but I'm not. You're just a blind man who is afraid of others. That's the reason you keep other alphas around to protect you." Deucalion, hearing this, was enraged. He growled at her and removed the cap of the white cane, which revealed a sharp and pointy end, and threw at her. The cane moved as fast as a bullet as it was reaching her. Max made on his way to Georgetown within a couple of hours. He went to the north of the town. When he reached the forest region, he threw away all his extra weights in the car and put on his black jacket and took a box of nail, a pouch of mountain ash, some rare and poisonous wolf's bane and other stuff. And he started running through the forest. As a hunter who hunted werewolves for years, he had learned to track the werewolves with their footprints and other clues. Soon he sensed where Selena was trapped, so he quickly hid his presence and approached her location. He could also sense that there were many other strong presence near her. But as soon as he saw who it was surrounding Selena, he was flabbergasted. He couldn't believe that it was Deucalion and his alpha pack that were trying to capture her. He couldn't properly sense Deucalion's power when he was calm, but it was already as strong as Peter when he was in his monstrous form. If Deucalion was enraged, he was sure that his power could be twice or thrice than Peter when he was at his fullest. If it was a month before, Max would have just run away, as he wasn't a match for him at that time. But a month of intense sparring and training, he was sure that he could face Deucalion. But the problem was there were other alphas around them, and each one of them are as strong or maybe even stronger than Peter. As he was thinking about countermeasures, he heard Deucalion growl and throw his cane at Selena. Max didn't hesitate anymore and threw 5 nails from the side, and as the cane was about to reach Selena, his nails interrupted it. Deucalion saw that he wasn't able to hit her, roared and said, "Who?" But he didn't hear any reply. He only heard nails flying everywhere around him. He was able to dodge it because he didn't rely on his eyes, rather his other senses were higher compared to others. When he sensed around, he could sense only him and Selena were standing. He turned his entire eyes to red and was able to see that all the other alphas were lying on the floor. And they had 5 to 6 nail pierce each of them. Deucalion knew that the person who came this time was very skilled and he didn't underestimate them, especially when his pack was lying on the ground unconscious. So he only shouted, "Hunter, show yourself. This is a matter between the alphas. You are not to get involved. We haven't killed any of you recently." He only heard a reply from behind him, "No, you haven't killed any of my people, but you were about to." Hearing the sound, Deucalion immediately tuned around to see a man with his face covered with black scarf. When he saw that the man was very close to him, he lunged at him, only to pass through the man. This was Max's Mirage clone he's been working on a long time and recently mastered. And when Deucalion turned and looked, the man he passed through, the man slowly vanished and a man who looked exactly like him was standing in front of Selena like he was protecting her. Deucalion shouted at him, "What are you doing?" Max smiled and replied, "Oh, she called for help, so I'm helping her."